Hello, and welcome back to another video. This is the 13th episode of story in which the 4th Shinobi World War was over, and Naruto was finally captured by Madara. But is hope truly gone? And what the heck is happening to the Ghetto Mazo? Join our favorite blonde hero and the nine-tailed beasts on their great journey to the past. Let's see how Naruto deals with this. After you've finished watching, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. To begin, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let's get this show going. Naruto and Itachi stared at the six beings in front of them in horror. Pain had noticed their escape, and was now pulling all of his force to stop them. Being in the Akatsuki for a long time, Itachi had known that the Rinnegan possessed by Pain had incredible abilities which could even be considered godly. But he had never seen the full power of the Akatsuki leader before. Every time the organization gathered, Pain only used one single body, the body with orange messy hair. Never before had he seen him utilizing all six bodies like this. It seems I was right when I decided to keep an eye on you, Itachi, said Pain in a cold voice. Just as I thought, you Uchiha can't be trusted with anything. Sweat rolled on Itachi's forehead down to his cheek. His own body still hadn't completely recovered from the battle with the Naruto. There was no way he could take on six enemies at once like this, even if the enemies didn't possess the legendary Rinnegan. And Naruto, being disabled like this, couldn't help anything. It meant he would have to fight this battle all alone. There was no other choice. He unsheathed his weapon and got into his battle stance. What he needed to do right now was to make an opening for Naruto to escape first. Pain didn't waste any second. His animal path immediately slammed his hands on the ground, and in a burst of smoke, a huge rhinoceros appeared and charged Naruto and Itachi with the speed of a train. But Itachi didn't even flinch. He kicked the ground and leapt up, and to the creature's surprise, he landed on its head between its horn and forehead. A flick of his wrist sent a kunai into his hand, and with both weapons on hand, he mercilessly stabbed the summoned animal in both of its Rinnegan eyes. Blood poured out of the destroyed eye sockets, and the creature howled and thrashed around in pain, before disappearing in another puff of smoke. The Deva path narrowed his eyes. From both his sides, the Asura path and human path rushed out towards Itachi, with the former sprouting two additional arms from his back and the latter pulling out its black rods from its sleeves. Itachi grimaced. They're going to fight him in close combat. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Another Itachi appeared in a puff of smoke, who immediately started to engage the two paths of Pain together with the original in a deadly dance of blades. While the paths of Pain had brute strength, Itachi also had his skills which had been honed during his days in Nanbu, which allowed him to keep up, and even push the two Pain back a little. Then Itachi's eyes widened when he saw a giant bird with the Rinnegan descending down his head, its beak spinning like a drill with the velocity of rockets from above. The animal path must have summoned it while he was distracted by the two other paths. Shit. He didn't have anything in his arsenal to deflect something that big, that fast. And there was no way he could dodge when it had already been this close. Suddenly, something hit the bird at the stomach and flung it away like a rag doll. It flew over the walls of Amigakure and disappeared behind it. The ground rumbled when it landed. The two paths of Pain looked up in surprise, only to take two giant fists made of chakra to the face. They flew backward, confused. Itachi blinked. Standing next to him now was Naruto, coated in his chakra shroud. At the places which were supposed to be his arms were two arm-like appendages made of pure, solid chakra, with functionable hands and fingers connecting to the shroud. Are you really trying to fight Pain? Naruto heard Kurama asking skeptically. The last time you fought him, you were in your full power, 16-year-old body. And you also have Sage Mode to boot. Without it, there is no way you can get past that freak who can absorb jutsu. I know, but, he said confidently, now I have you guys with me, I know I can do anything. If we use that strategy, there is a chance we can get past him. We have practiced it before, right? Yeah, but that's just not enough. Naruto, remember that we cannot take control of your body for too long. If we force it too much it will eventually break down and you will die. I know, but it's not like we have anything else to lose, right? We will get through it, believe it. Incoming. Naruto immediately slipped into his battle stance when two other paths of Pain, this time the Preta and Deva path himself, launched toward him. Naruto knew that this screamed trouble to him. This meant all of his jutsu which utilized chakra by now were going to be nullified. That only left him with one choice. Goku, tag. With pleasure. The two Pains came down on Naruto's head, their black weapons ready on their hands, but Naruto easily caught the two black rods by his chakra hands. Of course, those chakra arms are stronger than his original arms. But it's easy, if I can take away the chakra. Then the Predapath suddenly found itself losing balance. What the? Before Pain could even realize what was happening, a foot had separated the head of the Predapath from its body. The path was sent flying into the border wall, making a cracking crater on it. The force and speed from the kick was much greater than something a boy in a 12-year-old body like Naruto could have done. And how it was performed? No teenage boy could have done it. It was the move only a taijutsu master could perform. Or a tailed beast with the skill of a taijutsu master. Not even stopping a second, the golden bullet which was Naruto shot towards the fallen Predapath with the speed of a rocket. It was clear that he was intending to completely eliminate the troublesome path once and for all. Banshouten. Right before he could reach the path, however, he was pulled back forcefully by an invisible force. He flew back as if he was punched at the stomach, towards where the Devapath was standing with his right arm forward and a black rod on his left. 3 meters. 2. 1. Pain's hand rose, lifting the black rod up. And Naruto's irises morphed into the shape of a coin. What the? Wind style, spiral strike burst. A vortex of wind suddenly exploded from Naruto's mouth without any hand seals and shot toward the Devapath with the velocity and power of an artillery shell. With such a close distance, there was no way Pain could dodge this sudden move. Shinra Tensei. Pain hastily cast his other jutsu, dispel the deadly jutsu before it could land on its target. The force of the technique was so great Naruto was once again thrown away, but he backflipped on the air and landed on the ground gracefully. GRR. Shukaku, the time limit's up. From inside Naruto's head, the voice of the mission control, Kokuo, rose urgently. Dag out immediately. Crap, we're out of time already? The Naruto body controlled by Shukaku immediately backtracked, making a distance from him and Devapath before, with a blink, giving back control to Naruto. At the same time, the chakra shroud covering his body faded away. And Naruto nearly screamed when he felt a sharp pain coursing through his body. What the fuck? What did you do to my body, Shukaku? Why does it hurt so much? Well, blame your body for being so weak to handle my jutsu. Ugh. I really didn't think of this. The problem with Jinchuriki was that, while a very strong-willed one could extract the chakra from the tailed beast by force to use, just like Naruto had done before, if they wanted to use all the power of their beast, they would need to have synchronization with the beast, not only in body strength, but also in their souls. The better their synchronization was, the more power they could gain from the beast. That's why perfect Jinchuriki like Killer Bee was so powerful. Years of friendship with their tailed beasts had forged them a bond many people could only dream about. Without such a bond, the tailed beasts could only exert their full power by completely taking over the host's body. However, doing so would require them to separate the connection between the Jinchuriki's soul and their body to connect theirs into it. And if the takeover lasts too long, the host's spirit wouldn't be able to reconnect to their own body. Meaning death. Not to mention the damage the beast's very potent chakra could do to the Jinchuriki's body. And naturally, Naruto didn't have either of them at the moment. His 12-year-old body was too weak to handle the tailed beast's chakra for long, and the only one he could even consider having a decent synchronization with was Kurama. And while her chakra could give him incredible strength on its own, she didn't possess any skill which could help him against a powerful, skilled enemy. That's the reason why Naruto and the beasts were resorting to what they're doing right now. While Kurama didn't have any special skill, except for her very potent and powerful chakra, the other tailed beasts had. And despite having imperfect bonds with them, if he just allowed them to take over for a short amount of time, just like the time when Kurama completely possessed him to fight Orochimaru, he would be fine. He guessed. Before, in his mature, trained body, he had lasted about 15 minutes when the Kitsune had completely taken over him. He didn't know how long this younger, weaker body could take it, but he could not risk it for too long. That's why he decided to play safe with this tagging strategy, with the immense skills and taijutsu of Goku, the very advanced genjutsu of Mudatabi which Naruto knew he could never use on his own, and the powerful ninjutsu in Shukaku's arsenal. Naruto knew he would be able to hold his own even when he was disabled like this. Being able to think of such strategy in such a short time was a very considerable achievement. But, practicing before or not, he just hadn't expected that it would hurt so much when trying in real battle. And would it work against someone like Pain, with the game-breaking power which was the legendary Rinnegan? Well, at least we managed to stop one of his bodies, he heard Isabu talking in his head. But that's not enough, Naruto thought. That body with the power to revive it is still there, if we can't find a way to destroy it first. At least now we can use ninjutsu without fear of being absorbed, Shukaku said with a nasty grin. Now we can totally kick his ass. The problem is, how we're gonna get past them. Standing between Naruto and the fallen Predator path were now the Deva path and the recently joined Animal path. And he grimaced when he saw the other paths disengaging Itachi, ready to come for him. It seems they already decided who the more dangerous one was between Itachi and Naruto. Crap. Itachi narrowed his eyes when the two paths of pain left him to go against Naruto. No, what he was worrying about wasn't that pain was focusing all his force on Naruto or anything. What he was wary of was how Naruto was fighting. Itachi himself was a veteran shinobi, everyone knew that fact. And his Sharingan allowed him to memorize the fighting pattern of every enemy he had ever faced. Therefore, in just one single move Naruto had just performed, he could immediately see that there was something wrong. That taijutsu move was completely different from what he had used against him during their fight in Otogakure. No, that move definitely wasn't something a 12-year-old shinobi could do. He doubted even the most powerful taijutsu master of Konoha, Might Guy, could perform that move without a very long time of training. If that's the case, it could only mean that either his tailed beast, or someone with taijutsu skills surpassing all the taijutsu masters in the world had possessed him in just that instance to perform the extremely complex and powerful move, or Naruto was still holding back a whole lot during their battle, and his true skill might even surpass the Hokage himself. Itachi shuddered. Both ideas were so absurd he could swear that he's going crazy even thinking about them. Seriously, how could those ideas even be possible? But if that's the case, there might be a way for them to get out of this situation and escape alive. But in order to do that, he would need Naruto. Naruto-kun. Naruto growled when he realized Itachi had arrived next to him. What now? We cannot escape from them by fighting separately like this, Itachi said. We need to work together if we want to have a chance against them. By following another crazy plan of yours? Naruto snarled. There is no way I'm going to obey anything coming from you. I know. That's the reason why I'm following your lead. What Itachi had just said almost made Naruto lose his balance. What? That's right, Itachi answered calmly. During our fight, you have already understood my skills and power, now I trust you to figure out a plan using our power together to create an escape route for us. It's not like Itachi didn't believe in his own abilities, or that he thought Naruto was a brilliant strategist or something. It's just that, during the fight between him and Naruto, he had shown nearly all of his most powerful techniques, and of course during his time in the Akatsuki, Pain had also noticed a majority of them. And yet he still couldn't figure out just how strong Naruto really was. That's why he decided to put everything on a big bet. If Naruto could somehow figure out a way to save both of them, it would be a boon. Otherwise, well, he believed at least with his unpredictable mind, they would still be able to hold Pain back for a while before reinforcement came. They're supposed to come today. How? Hokage-sama. Please come here quickly. Unfortunately, Naruto was not Shikamaru. He could think of tactics during battle, but only if the partner was someone he understood very well, such as his teammates. No matter how strong Itachi was, he's still a stranger whom Naruto didn't have too much interaction before. I can help, Naruto, if I know the full extent of his power, Kokuo inside Naruto offered. Even I'd be damned if I say I know for sure what that Itachi can do, Kurama muttered. Each time we face them, those accursed Sharingan users always shit out a new game-breaking skill they aren't even supposed to have. Fire which can burn even chakra, Genjutsu which creates a whole illusory world, dimensional wormholes. What next? Reality warping? Changing destiny at will? Ugh. Maybe we can just go and have him ignite Naruto's Rasen Shuriken with that black flame, like Sasuke did during our time, Goku suggested. That would burn away half of Amigakure, you know, Isabu pointed out. There are innocent people in there too, if we let them be caught in this battle, we will just be no different than what Pain said. Then we will need to get them out of the village first. Somehow. All of them are not the real Pain. Itachi turned towards the blonde Jinchuriki. How do you know that? Naruto nodded. The reason he was going to say wasn't how he knew about that at all, but it was still a very legit one, and he silently thanked the gods Kokuo was here to give him that answer. With the power of the QB, I can sense the emotion of people around me. The things in front of us right now don't have any sign of emotion at all, even though their faces could show some expressions. It's just like their corpses controlled by someone else from afar. Itachi grimaced. A boy of that age had managed to figure out something himself, who was considered an experienced Anbu-level shinobi, couldn't. But to be fair, this was the first time the Uchiha had ever seen Pain utilizing all of his 6 bodies. Before, whenever Itachi and the other members of the Akatsuki had to meet him, the only body he used to show them was the Deva path, his symbolic one. There was no way the Uchiha could know about the other bodies, or whatever they could do. So what are you going to do? Naruto bit his lips. Honestly? I don't know. That one over there, he looked at the body utilizing the animal path, seems to be able to summon monstrous animals with the Rinnegan, and that one, his eyes moved to the Deva path. When I went against him, it seemed he could pull me in and push me out with a flick of his hand. So he can control gravity, huh? Itachi mused. That would be a problem. And it seems that one over there can revive the killed ones. Indeed, the killed Preta path had been brought back to life by the Naraka path. Naruto grimaced. The effort they had put out to try to get rid of that troublesome path was for nothing. I guess. That revived body has something to do with disabling ninjutsu. Naruto turned to Itachi in surprise. How do you know that? Pain sent that one together with the main body specifically for you, Itachi answered. His eyes still hadn't left the 6 bodies in front of him. And you are a ninjutsu specializing shinobi, with your chakra cloak. Naturally, he will have to send in something with the ability to neutralize ninjutsu. He's perceptive, Jinki remarked. That leaves 2 of them we still haven't known abilities yet, the Uchiha concluded. If only we could figure out what they could do first. Naruto gritted his teeth. Even he couldn't do anything about that. The last time he fought Pain, the bodies of the Asura and human path had both been destroyed in one hit. He had heard about their abilities, but hadn't even had the time to witness what they could really do. And even if he knew it, he still couldn't reveal it to Itachi. All the secrets he was trying to keep would be blown to Kingdom Come if he did that. He closed his eyes. What had he done during the time he had to fight Pain in his timeline? Asura path? One hit with a Rasengan had blasted it to smithereens. Human path? Rasen Shuriken had evaporated it in one strike. It hadn't even had the chance to do anything during the battle. Animal path? With the help of the Toad summons, he had been able to fend off the summons of the path and killed it with a double Rasengan to the chest. And so it'd been the Naraka path, albeit to the head instead. Preta path. It actually was the most troublesome path he had to face. Both times he had managed to kill it, he had had to realize on the abilities Sage Mode gave him. The first time, it was because of Frog Kata, which utilized Nature Chakra to deliver undodgeable hits, and the second time was due to the ability to turn everything incompatible to stone. He didn't have Sage Mode now, so he would have to find another way to do it, or else. And Deva path. To be honest, having the other paths or not wasn't important at all. There was nothing else Naruto could say about that last path but one word: overpowered. According to what Kakashi and other people had told him, it had faced 2 whole teams of Konoha shinobi including Choza and Choji Akimichi, together with Kakashi himself, by itself and won. It had also been the only path of Pain who could go toe-to-toe with Naruto during the battle in Konoha, and would have captured him if it hadn't been for Hinata jumping in and nearly getting killed. He had only been able to overcome it by going all out with everything he had: shadow clones, Rasen Shuriken, utilizing the battlefield for camouflage, transformation jutsu, not to mention a humongous amount of chakra from Kurama. And that was even after Pain had exhausted himself with Chibaku Tensei. And that was when he had a grown-up, not disabled body. Hand seals, to shinobi, were like a type of self-hypnosis to flip a switch inside the shinobi's mind, allowing them to activate the process of performing jutsu inside their body and bring the ninjutsu to the outside world. Without his hands, Naruto could not use hand seals, as the arms he made from the tailed beast's chakra weren't his own. It meant that no shadow clone, no transformation, no summoning, nothing with hand seals was available to him. He could only rely on Rasengan and its variants, and his projection jutsu, the jutsu which only needed chakra and the power of his imagination. Luckily for him, they were all the most powerful skills he had available in his arsenal. But unfortunately for him also, without Shadow Clone Jutsu, the element of surprise and innovation in his fighting style would be reduced drastically. And judging by the situation they were in right now, they were being outnumbered 1-3. At least it was still better than the time Naruto had had to handle all 6 of them, but still. Hey, I know this is not rational, but I think this is not the time for you to think too much, Naruto. Naruto blinked when he realized what Isabu had just said. What do you mean, Isabu? If you think about it, it might be better if you don't waste your head on sophisticated strategies and just go with what you have, the turtle said. Don't you remember? You have survived until this day with your unpredictability. Besides, isn't it true that thinking too much about complex plans makes you lose your concentration on the battle in front of you? But that's very dangerous. Madatabi protested. And this is the Akatsuki leader we're facing, and he also possesses the same eyes as father. If we just charge at him without a plan. No, I think that's the best Naruto can do at the moment. All the tailed beasts inside Naruto turned toward Juki, who had just said those words. I might not be the best strategist, but beside Kurama, I am the one who understands how Naruto usually fights among us the best, the ox said. And he is the one who tends to think of a tactic in the heat of the battle. And usually, those tactics work like a charm. So why don't we just believe in Naruto in this and leave it to him? So you mean we should just go along with it and let Naruto go with the flow? Kokuo asked. That is very risky, you understand that, right? Juki nodded grimly. I know, but it's not like we have any other choice, right? I'd rather gamble with this chance than sit here and do nothing. We can still provide Naruto with chakra and other powers in here, right? A moment of silence. Then, Naruto nodded. I understand. Pain won't even know what hit him, believe it. Itachi, which direction is the way out of the village? Itachi blinked at the sudden question from Naruto. It's this way, but... Alright. Brace yourself. Wait, why? The Uchiha could only scream out like a little girl when Naruto suddenly grabbed him with a giant chakra arm and threw him toward the direction he had just pointed at. Well, that's just humiliating, he thought when flying through the air like a rocket to the border of the village, passing the tall buildings below. He wondered what people down there would have thought if they had managed to see him like this. You dare risking yourself sending your ally away like that? Deva Path of Pain looked at Naruto with an emotionless gaze. Naruto just grinned back cheekily. Yes, because like this I can use all my speed without holding back. Then he activated his chakra cloak, and bolted. I really don't like to say this, but good thinking using our chakra to run away. Those were the words Goku had said on their way. Right now, they were following the direction Itachi was flying toward, at full speed boosted with the chakra cloak. Fighting in the village was a severe disadvantage for both Naruto and Itachi. Not only did Pain outnumber them, Amigakure was also his home base. Staying within the village was no different from trapping themselves. They needed a new battlefield, somewhere they could fight without the obstacles inside the village, somewhere Pain couldn't utilize to gain an upper hand against them. The wall at the border of the village was in front of him. A few jumps, and Naruto had gotten past the wall, arriving outside of the village. There was Itachi, standing just a few steps from him, and... oh, fuck. All the 6 paths of Pain were standing right in front of the Uchiha. How the hell did they get here so fast? Shukaku exclaimed in disbelief. A few seconds ago, he's still trying to escape? No matter, he will not be able to escape the hand of God. Next to Deva Path, the Animal Path jumped up and with a backflip, it landed on the former's 2 hands, which were already raised up over his head and waiting. Shinra Tensei. And Animal Path was shot up into the sky like a cannonball. It flew toward the direction Itachi and Naruto had gone with a speed much greater than the both of them had moved. It flew past Itachi, who was startled by the sudden appearance of the former and landed on the ground with a thud, right before Itachi could make his own landing. Summoning Jutsu. Before Itachi could even do anything, Animal Path had slammed his hands down on the ground. And the other 5 paths of Pain appeared in a burst of smoke as Naruto arrived from behind the wall with only 2 words uttered. Oh, fuck. I knew everything about you, Ninetales, said Pain in a deathly cold voice. I know you can never leave someone who helped you, even if they were your enemies at first. You could have run away if you had gone the other way, but instead, you followed Itachi, giving me the chance to get both of you at the same time without having to split up. You like to think of yourself as some kind of hero, but you are not. You are just a fool who has immersed himself into the darkness of this world. What do you mean by that? Naruto demanded, pointing at Pain. Is helping people such a bad thing to do? If there exists a hero, there must be someone who is in need of a hero's service, and thus is suffering from pain and despair, Pain answered. His eyes didn't leave Naruto's face. If someone wishes to become a hero, naturally he will wish for someone to save. And that is why humans cause wars, not only to sate their greed, but also to fulfill their stupid dream of being heroes. Even your 4th Hokage only became a hero after slaughtering hundreds of Iwa Shinobi. He's no different from you. Can shut your mouth now, Pain. Every eye turned toward Itachi, who had just said those words. And Naruto was startled when he saw the Uchiha's face. Naruto had seen Itachi's face many times. But every time, his face had always held a calm expression. Even their battle in Orochimaru's base couldn't even shake his stoic face. But now, looking at the utterly furious expression on the Uchiha's face, it felt like the man in front of him was a completely different person from whom he had known before. A true hero doesn't need to wish to be a hero, he continued, his voice suddenly lowering to the point it became nearly a whisper. They become heroes for the sake of the people they love, they only take up the mantle because they have to, and they do the job well, and people consider them heroes. The fourth Hokage is someone like that, and if you dare say a word to slander his name. His voice rose again, and the temperature suddenly dropped at least 10 degrees. Then just wash your neck and wait. Then he flipped through a series of hand seals so fast Naruto could only see his hands blurring around. Fire style, Grand Dragon Flame Jutsu. A huge dragon head made of fire erupted from his mouth and rushed the 6 paths of pain with pure rage and vengeance. It scorched the used to be a lush grass field, threatening to consume everything, the ground, the air, the forest, and of course the 6 human figures standing before it. But pain didn't even flinch a bit. From behind the Deva Path, the Preta Path jumped forward and extended its arms. The menacing fire dragon, upon reaching the path, was immediately absorbed into the body without being able to cause any harm. In just 2 seconds, the technique completely disappeared, revealing a torrent of blades of all kinds descending down the path's heads. Not the kind made of chakra like Naruto's creations, they were real, very sharp blades unsealed from the 3 scrolls on Itachi's hands, not unlike the type of jutsu Tenten usually used. There's no way pain can absorb this. From behind, the Deva Path sprang into action. It leapt onto the sky, on the way of the descending blades. Shinra Tensei. All the weapons coming towards the paths were thrown back by an invisible force. They fell onto the ground around the paths of pain harmlessly, and loud thuds. DCH. Now you see how useless you are? Pain's voice rose mockingly. No matter how strong you are, what kind of jutsu you have, they're all useless against the might of God. You don't have any chance. Why not just surrender peacefully and save yourself a hopeless battle? Itachi gritted his teeth. That was only 2 paths in action, and his techniques were already disabled easily like that. If all the paths had acted at the same time. No. Naruto blinked when he heard Kokuo's voice. What's wrong, Kokuo? He might have said that, but actually, Pain is not invincible. His powers, while very strong and seemingly impossible to stop, are actually also his weaknesses. The declaration of the wise horse made Naruto startled. How? You have already faced Pain in battle, right? Now tell me, what weakness does the Deva Path of Pain have? Naruto tried to remember his battle with Pain in his past. Ah. He has a 5 seconds gap between each use of his pushing jutsu. That's only one of them, Kurama quipped in. I still remember when I nearly took over Naruto's body at that time. I managed to push back his jutsu with sheer power alone. That technique actually isn't that invincible, eh? That's right, Kokuo agreed. But as far as I see, the technique is a gravity-based one. And gravity, no matter what kind, needs a center. I think. The basis of the techniques he possesses is that he uses the body of the Deva Path as the center of gravity. But isn't gravity the concept of something with great mass pulling everything toward its core? What does that have to do with his ability to push everything away? Isabu pondered. I was going to that, Kokuo answered. It seems that Pain's power is not only limited to merely gravity, it extends to the concept of gravity itself. It means it can do things like reverse the law of gravity. Sounds so overpowered, Goku whistled. True, the 5 tails agreed. But that doesn't mean it can rewrite reality. If it is really gravity, the most basic rules forming what's called gravity must still be followed. Which means, I see. Muratabi suddenly exclaimed. It means the power cannot be controlled indirectly, it always covers everything around him. He cannot protect the other bodies if we bombard all of them at once. But what about the pulling technique? He seems to be able to pull only something he wants toward him. Kokuo didn't answer. Instead, he asked. Naruto, what do you feel when he used the jutsu on you? Huh? Naruto blinked. I feel that my body seemingly lost all the weight in just an instance. And then somehow I was forcefully pulled toward him, and couldn't even control my body. Then it's possible that Pain can also manipulate the gravity of other objects. When he uses that pulling technique, he steals all the weight from the target and at the same time, makes himself a center of gravity. Someone with the weight of a normal person might not feel it, but someone with zero weight will be pulled toward him without any chance to retaliate. Those science things make my head hurt so much, really, Goku commented. In short, that Deva Path is very powerful on itself, but it might actually be a nuisance in a team battle, Kokuo concluded. It has the power to protect, but that power is mainly used for itself only. And furthermore, the protecting power lies basically only on pushing things away and pulling things towards it. If we can somehow exploit that, we might have a chance to turn everything around. How? The voice of Kokuo turned serious. We have to hit him with something he cannot push away. Itachi, Naruto whispered into the Uchiha's ear, and his eyes widened. What the hell is that jutsu? Pain narrowed his eyes when he saw the Rasen Shuriken raging on Naruto's hand. He had heard about the jutsu from the words of Zetsu about the Battle of Kakuzu with Team 7, but he could never expect it to be this powerful. It was more powerful than any wind jutsu he had ever heard about. And that wasn't even the strongest form of the jutsu, if Zetsu's words were to believe. But no matter. As long as this was a ninjutsu, Predapath would be able to absorb it. Predapath can absorb any ninjutsu. Period. No matter how powerful and destructive the jutsu is. There's nothing he should worry about. Suddenly three of something small and round flew at him from Itachi's hand. By reflex, he blocked the three incoming projectile with a Shinra Tensei, but his eyes narrowed when the three grenades exploded upon connecting with the jutsu and filled the whole clearing with smoke. What the hell? Smoke screen? What do they think they can do with? The original Nagato's eyes suddenly widened. They're trying to block my shared vision. But why? His question was answered almost immediately. From inside the smoke screen, the Rasen Shuriken flew out, aiming straight at the Paths of Pain who were gathering up closely due to the fact they couldn't see each other. Immediately, the Predapath jumped into the jutsu's path, clearly intending to absorb the technique. And right at that moment, he realized that something was wrong. The incoming Rasen Shuriken suddenly turned into Itachi, whose trusted Tanto was raising high, ready to come down on the head of the Predapath, who was standing so close to the Uchiha that it couldn't have any hope to dodge its incoming demise. You're going down. Together with the declaration, the Tanto on Itachi's hands was brought down with all of his strength. The absurdly sharp blade of the weapon buried itself into the flesh of the Predapath's shoulder and didn't stop there. With the power of the Uchiha's arms, the blade continued going down and down, until it split the path in half completely. The two halves of the path fell onto the ground, lifeless and useless. Not even stopping a second, Itachi flicked his hands. Shuriken flew out from his sleeves, flying around the Deva path and tied it up with the ninja wires tying on them. Immediately, the Uchiha flipped through his hand seals for another jutsu. Fire style, Dragon Flame Jutsu. So this is the reason they blocked my view with the smokescreen. To hide the fact that Itachi has transformed into the jutsu Shinra Tensei. With a roar from the Deva path, the fire jutsu was dispersed easily. All the wires binding it were also snapped as if they were made of straw. But if that's the case, where is the real one? I'm over here. The Deva path snapped his head backwards so fast his neck let out a loud noise which sounded suspiciously like a crack. There was Naruto, having snuck behind them heaven could know when, with the real Rasen Shuriken spinning like a tornado on his hand, ready to be thrown. You're going down. And this time, stay down. Believe it. With a decisive battle cry, Naruto threw the Rasen Shuriken with all of the strength coming from the chakra arm. The deadly shuriken tore through the air with utmost vengeance, screeching as if thousands of bells were ringing at the same time. The cooldown for his jutsu still had 3 seconds left. And the jutsu was coming so fast. There's no way it could dodge it. By itself. The animal and human path immediately jumped away from their positions, avoiding the deadly projectile. At the same time, from behind, the Asura path grabbed the collars of the Deva path and Naraka path nearby and tossed them upward, over the range of the Rasen Shuriken. But the cost of that action was that it was caught in the violent vortex when the shuriken exploded into a giant sphere of wind. The path was cut into millions of tiny pieces, there was no hope in recovering it. That was so dangerous. Since when has the Jinchuriki received such power? Then Pain caught a glimpse at Itachi's face below, and from his hiding place, Nagato's eyes widened. His eyes had morphed into the pinwheel shape of the Mangekyo Sharingan. In just a fraction of a second, Nagato understood what the Uchiha was going to do. The Deva path, without even a glimpse of hesitation, immediately pushed the Naraka path next to it forward as a meat shield right when Itachi finished the name of his jutsu. Amaterasu. The Naraka path was promptly consumed in the black flame. It fell to the ground with a thud, and without the Predapath, nothing else could be done except waiting until it burned into nothingness. Yosh. Our tactic worked. Naruto, who had just arrived next to Itachi after launching his jutsu, cheered. You really surprised me, Naruto-kun. Itachi, stoic as he always was, still let out a small grin. Had you used that technique during our fight, I would have been killed. But why didn't you? But before Itachi could finish his question, I have to admit, you are very strong. The smoke and dust cleared out, revealing the 3 remaining paths of pain. Their faces still didn't have any expression, But the rage and surprise coming from the real Nagato was so obvious Naruto didn't even need to use his emotion detector to know. No one could even land a hit on the 6 paths of pain before, not to mention defeating one, and yet you managed to destroy 3 of my paths. Pain's voice went even colder and more eerie with each word coming out of his mouth. But no matter. My pain. He raised his hands, and immediately, Itachi and Naruto couldn't control their bodies anymore. It's as if all the weight had left their bodies at once. They tried to struggle, but all their efforts were useless. The only thing they could do was flailing their limbs helplessly in the air. Is greater than yours. Banshoutenen. Immediately, Itachi and Naruto felt their bodies jerk forward. They tried to struggle in vain, but couldn't even slow down. They flew into the hands of the human path, which grabbed both their heads with each of its arms. I don't have anything else to say to you, Naruto Uzumaki, Pain said, and Naruto felt a chill on his spine when he realized what his enemy was going to do. It seems I cannot allow you to live in this world anymore. The 9 tails can be recaptured when it revives after being killed, but you, not anyone else, are the most prominent obstacle in our way to achieve peace. No. All the tailed beasts inside Naruto screamed at the same time, but there was nothing else they could do. Naruto was not Hashirama, and the grip of the human path on his head was so strong. His soul was going to be pulled out. Then suddenly Naruto and Itachi felt the human path's hands releasing them. At the same time, a giant staff landed between them and the path as it was retreating hastily back. You are Hokage. Pain breathed out, and Hiruzen Sarutobi, who had just landed in front of Itachi and Naruto, answered with a pleasant smile. It's an honor to meet you, leader of the Akatsuki. Gigi's here. We're saved. Naruto cheered in his mind. Never before had he felt so relieved when his grandfather figure appeared. Good. With him here, we will have a chance to reverse the situation. Kurama agreed. We can even finish Pain off here and spare us the trouble of killing him later. Wait a second, Isabu's voice cut them off. I think there is some problem. Huh? Even when facing Pain, the Hokage still didn't show even a slight tension of battle. On his face, there was only the usual calm, kind smile. If there was anything to say, Naruto would say that Hiruzen was going to drink tea with Pain, not fight him. I don't get it. How can he be so calm? It's Pain he's facing, surely he must know. You come here to rescue the Jinchuriki, aren't you? Pain said, his eyes not leaving the Hokage. Hiruzen just smiled pleasantly. I have to admit that was one of my intentions. But actually, the main reason I come here tonight was to talk to you. No one in the clearing, including Naruto, could expect what the Hokage had just said. Pain didn't say anything for a few seconds. Then suddenly, from behind the Deva path, where the animal path was standing, something big appeared in a burst of smoke and charged the Konoha Shinobi in a raging rampage. It was a giant dog with 3 heads, each of which was snarling and having saliva drool from their mouth as if it had rabies. Hiruzen narrowed his eyes, but before he could do anything. Not so fast. The ground shook when Gamiken descended from the sky and landed on the dog, pinning it to the ground. The monstrous hound struggled, but the toad wedged the middle head between the 2 prongs of his Sasumata, effectively locking the hound in place and preventing it from throwing him away. On top of the toad stood Jiraiya, whose face bore a grim expression. Next to him was Sasuke, who seemed to be a little dazed after flying on top of a giant toad for the first time. Let's just say there was no need to say how freaked out Itachi was when he saw his brother on top of Gamiken. Sasuke? What the hell are you doing here? He shouted in panic. Well, I'm not allowed to go rescue my friend after you kidnapped him? His brother retorted, and Itachi winced. This is not the time for you to play hero. Go hide immediately, or else. Kinda rare to see that normally stoic Itachi Uchiha freaking out like this, Kurama commented. Meanwhile, Jiraiya jumped down from the head of the giant toad and landed on the ground with a thud. You are Yahiko. The toad sage muttered, his eyes fixing at the Deva path. But why do you have Nagato's eyes? Those eyes are definitely the Rinnegan. Jiraiya-sensei. Pain stared at Jiraiya and said, still with the same monotone voice. It seems you still remember me, after abandoning us. Jiraiya grimaced. The jab in his former student's voice was too obvious to everyone to not notice. But he refused to be gullible. This was not the time. So, who are you? Are you Yahiko? Or Nagato? Pain narrowed his eyes. There used to be people with those names. Now, there is only Pain, God of the world, and the one who will bring forth peace. Jiraiya gritted his teeth. Even if you are Yahiko or Nagato, I didn't teach you to be like this. What happened to you? Why did you become like this? Hiruzen shot a glance at Jiraiya. Either he was faking his emotions so well no one could even find out, or he was truly in pain seeing his ex-student become this, a delusional jerkass with a gigantic god complex. You don't have the right to say that after abandoning us to go back to your precious Konoha, Jiraiya-sensei, Pain said in a soft tone, but everyone could hear the venom in his voice. And if you want to know what happened, you can go back to Konoha and ask your Danzo about it. After all, it's his fault that Pain. No, the Akatsuki was born with its present purpose. I should have known. That bastard again. Did he kill Yahiko? And Konan too? Is she still alive? Where is she? Jiraiya growled. But that's not something you should bother with right now. Every eye snapped towards Pain. So you intend to take on Itachi, Naruto, Sasuke, me and Jiraiya single-handedly, do you? Hiruzen asked warily. Oh, I don't even need to, Pain answered, his voice still soft, because you are going to stay here, forever. Then with a sudden movement, he clapped his hands together. Realizing what Pain was going to do, Naruto, abandoning all of his vigilance, shouted, but before he could even let out a sound, Pain had opened his hands, and between them lay a black orb which looked like it had absorbed all the light coming to it. Chibaku Tensei. The ground shook. Large pieces of debris started to tear up from the surface and flew towards the floating black orb on the sky, which was exuding such a powerful gravity that even the 5 Konoha shinobi would be pulled into it if they didn't do anything soon. What? What the hell is that? Sasuke screamed, clutching onto Gamiken for dear life, while the toad was also doing his best to stay on the ground. It is sucking everything into it, Naruto yelled. Well thank you, Captain Obvious, Sasuke yelled back, annoyed as hell. We have to destroy that orb. It is the source of the gravitational pull, Itachi roared, and stomped his feet on the ground. And to everyone's amazement, his Susanoo burst into life, not in the usual skeleton form, but immediately in its complete form. Each of its 3 hands wielded a holy regalia, the sword of Totsuka, the ethereal blade of the god of wind Susanoo with the power to seal anything into eternal bliss, the Asaka Magatama, the symbolic jewels of the Holy Kingdom and the ultimate projectile weapon, and the Yata mirror, the mirror of the goddess Amaterasu herself in legend, which was said to be able to stop even the most powerful jutsu in the world. At that moment, something suddenly clicked on Naruto's head, as if there was a switch turning on upon a glimpse of the ethereal mirror. Yata mirror, assimilation at 52%. Warning, data encrypted. Passcode, CRST hash of. Elton to the power of GS. Unzipping. Unzip failed. Attempting to recover corrupted data. Error, fatal fragmentation of base processes. Recovering. Recreation process starting. He shook his head to clear his thought. What the hell was that? It sounded like some kind of code. But. Yasaka Magatama, Itachi roared, and on the 3rd arm of his Susanoo, the bracelet with the Magatama started to unravel and spin around its hand. And with a loud rumble, the stringed Magatama were launched at the black orb which was gathering dirt and debris above their heads like a giant shuriken. Not wasting a second, Hiruzen and Jiraiya also aimed their most powerful ranged jutsu at it. The 3 jutsu mixed up together, turning into a giant wheel made of scorching hot flame. The wheel of fire collided with the black sphere, and a deafening explosion shook the ground, raining debris down on the Konoha shinobi's heads. Recreation, 50% completed. Basic structure, analyzed. Attempting to remake the blueprint. Alright. We're safe. Naruto cheered. Then his eyes widened when he noticed the one standing right in the middle of the circle formed by the 5 Konoha shinobi. It was the Deva path, and paying too much attention to the Chibaku Tensei forming overhead, no one noticed it moving at all. And the Rinnegan on its eye sockets gleamed dangerously. Shinra Tensei. It was just like they had stood next to an exploding bomb. The 5 Konoha shinobi were thrown away, their backs hit the trees nearby or the ground painfully. Naruto himself was flung backward into the wall of Amigakure, his body crashed into it so hard it left a web of cracks on the stone wall. A gasp of pain choked out of his mouth, it felt like all of his bones were smashed into bits at the same time. Then from afar, in his blurry vision, he saw a burst of smoke exploding from where the animal path was standing. And he saw the giant bird with long neck from before taking off and launching itself towards him again, and he didn't know how, but this time its long beak was also spinning wildly like the tip of a drill. If that hit him, there was no way he could survive, no matter how powerful his regeneration could be, as there wouldn't be any heart or internal organ inside him staying intact after all. The other ones were too far away. There was absolutely no one who could save Naruto now. Recreation, 80% completed. Blueprint completed. Decoding the mystery. This was bullshit. There was no way he could accept this. He couldn't just die here meaninglessly like this. He had been saved once, by mere random chance, or by the will of the heaven he couldn't know. He had been saved, so there was no way he could die so easily. He had to live to fulfill his obligations. He had to live to protect the world from the mad ambition of Madara. If he was dead, he couldn't do that. Recreation, 99% completed. Mystery decoded and recreated. Finalizing the creation. Please enter the name of the regalia. But there was nothing to deny that he was going to be pierced and ripped apart by the giant drill bird which was flying toward him. That drill beak would cut into his flesh, even through his chakra shroud, and rip his heart to shreds. No. He would never let that happen. He needed something powerful. Something which could stop even the unstoppable. Something which could protect not only himself, but also everyone he cared about. A holy shield of a god. Recovery completed. New name registered. Regalia of the Soul, Ninth Tail, Yada Mirror, Blessing of Amaterasu. And it appeared like magic. In a blinding light, it appeared. The gold mirror, with 9 tail-like prongs gathering around the edge, floated in front of Naruto while glowing brightly, just like the sun itself. The bird projectile coming at Naruto was repelled. No, it was stopped before it could even reach the mirror. The bird stopped right in front of the mirror, and it gradually faded away into the light coming from the object. The sacred mirror of Amaterasu, the true symbol of the sun, the shield which could stop any kind of technique thrown at the wielder, Itachi's perfect defense. But no, comparing to this holy regalia, the Yada mirror Itachi's Susanoo possessed was just an imitation, a fake, no more, no less. Itachi's mirror could only stop the attacks from harming the possessor. This one, the blinding light coming from it seemed to have the power to completely erase all kinds of harm aimed at the holder. As long as it was out, anything with the intention to harm Naruto would never be able to even come close to him. And for some reason, when Naruto looked at the mirror, a feeling suddenly arose inside Naruto. A feeling of complete safety. Just like a very close, very powerful friend was standing in front of him, not allowing anything to touch him. What the hell is that? He heard Itachi exclaiming from afar. I feel like I got all of my spent chakra back again. How could it be? It's not only Itachi. Even Naruto himself felt that his chakra suddenly surged back to him when he bathed in the light coming from the mirror. Somehow, it felt like when the warm, powerful chakra of Kurama recharging him. Now that when he thought of it, it was actually the same. The very same feeling of being recharged by his trusted tailed beast, although much more powerful and abundant than normal. The mirror faded away into a rain of glittering dust, bringing the sunlight together with it. Soon, darkness returned to the clearing. Wah! What the hell just happened? The surprised voice of Kurama suddenly rose inside Naruto's head. For a moment I felt myself outside of Naruto's body. But how? It's finally the time, he felt Kokuo inside him smile proudly. But before he could ask about it, a movement from someone in front of them cut him off their communication. Snapping out of their stupors, the paths of pain once again rushed Naruto. But before they could even reach the blonde, someone had already appeared in the way. It was the Hokage, whose smile had disappeared from his face. The paths stopped dead on their way, their Rinnegan bore into the man's face warily. "You're not going to touch Naruto again," said Hiruzen with a calm tone while brandishing his weapon. "This is the final warning for you, Hokage," Pain said threateningly. "If you don't back down, you will suffer the wrath of God." The sudden surge of power coming from Hiruzen was so immense it made even the 3 paths of pain, which weren't his real body at all, backtrack a few steps. "You are still going to defy me?" Finally, after recovering himself, Pain scoffed. "Then you will die here, Hokage." Then the 2 paths started charging the Hokage again. But before they could even take their first steps, Hiruzen had done something no one could expect. In a very quick movement, he threw his adamantine staff upward and disappeared from view. What the? So fast. And when Nagato's brain was still processing what the hell had just happened, the Hokage appeared right in front of the 2 paths and buried his fist into the human path's solar plexus. His movement was so precise and quick Pain couldn't even react. Even though the paths couldn't feel pain, the force of the punch was so great the human path was launched away. Obviously Hiruzen had applied chakra into the punch, just like what Tsunade tended to do. Fuck. Shinra. But he couldn't even finish the name of the jutsu. Right after Hiruzen finished the punch, the adamantine staff which had been thrown into the sky fell back to him, and right upon touching his hand, it stretched out and hit the Deva path square in the face. The path was pushed back forcefully pretty far before the staff retracted, leaving a smashed, bloody face. Looking at Hiruzen right now, Naruto fully understood for the first time why people named the man the third god of Shinobi. His face didn't even show any hostile expression, but the pressure from his mere presence was more than enough to make everyone in the clearing choke on their breaths. Even though he didn't flare up his chakra, a sense of power still radiated from the Hokage as if he was giving off burning heat. Even Nagato, controlling the bodies from afar, could still feel the immense pressure coming off the man. It wasn't even killing intent, but for some reason, it still made him, for a brief instance, feel an emotion he hadn't felt for a long time: fear. But the feeling disappeared as fast as it had arrived. He quickly got back his calm. "You." Nagato snarled through the Deva path. "That's enough. I was thinking of giving you some mercy, but no more. Today all of you will die here." Hearing those words, Itachi jumped back on his feet. His Mangekyo Sharingan started spinning wildly. "You are not going to." "Itachi, stop." The command coming from the Hokage was so abrupt and strange even Pain was surprised. "What?" Then, to the shock and horror of the four other Konoha shinobi, he dispelled his own weapon. "Are you trying to surrender?" Pain narrowed his eyes. The Hokage didn't answer the question. Instead, he suddenly did something no one could ever expect. He kneeled before Pain and bowed. "Sensei. What are you doing?" Jiraiya exclaimed in shock. "Jiraiya has told me about what happened to you. And I know that Konoha is at fault for all of that. And I, as the Hokage, have to hold responsibility for it." Those words really had an effect on Pain. He snorted through the Deva path. "Those are just empty words. There is nothing you can do which can change the truth." A few seconds of silence. "Then kill me." It was just like a bomb had just been detonated in the middle of the clearing. Sasuke exclaimed. "What? What are you talking about, Hokage-sama?" "Danzo, as you have just said, as a citizen of Konohagakure, had done such a terrible action to you and your friends. And yes, it's true that there is no way I can bring your friend back to life." Hiruzen closed his eyes. "But if killing me, or doing anything you want to me, can help you relieve your grief and pain, then I'm ready to take it." "Jiraiya," he turned to the Dode sage. "If today I die here, tell Tsunade to keep the hat. And do not bring our force to Amigakure to get revenge for me, and if anyone tries to, you will stop them in any way you can, even if you have to disable them forever. Understood?" "Why?" Those words, surprisingly, came from Pain. The Devapath's face was donning an expression of utter shock and surprise. "Why are you going so far for this?" he asked with a tone of disbelief. "You are the cage of a great shinobi village. Why do you stoop as low as offering yourself to save a demon?" "Because sometimes, leading means we have to do that," Hiruzen answered. "I also don't like war, and will definitely do anything within my ability to prevent it from happening. And I don't want another war to happen just because of my fault to not be able to stop my subordinates from doing bad deeds to others. After all." The Hokage looked into the sky. "The lives of people I cherish are more important than that of mine." For a while, no one could even say anything. Then from behind the Deva path, the human path walked up. It reached out its hand, and Hiruzen closed his eyes, ready to accept the consequence. "Go." No one could even expect what Pain had just said. "What?" Naruto himself could only exclaim dumbly. "I will let you go this time. But mark my words." Pain turned around and walked away, but not before leaving an eerie threat. "The next time I come for you will be the time I get the Jinchuriki. You are not going to escape again." And with that, the three remaining bodies of Pain flickered away in a whoosh. "What the hell just happened?" Sasuke asked, still baffled. "That boy," Jiraiya muttered with a defeated smile. "No matter what he has become, he is still Nagato. There is no way he could fathom attacking another person when they have already given up." "Yeah," Naruto mumbled. "We might have a chance to help him. Yet." Then suddenly, the Jinchuriki fell flat on his face. What's wrong with Naruto?" Sasuke exclaimed in panic. "Was he injured during the battle?" "No." Hiruzen crouched down to examine Naruto. There doesn't seem to be any injury except for his arms. His eyes suddenly widened. "Itachi. How long hasn't Naruto eaten?" The Uchiha's eyes widened. "He hasn't accepted any food for 4 days. That means a dangerously low blood sugar level. He might die for real if we don't do anything fast. Hey, may I need to remind you all that the Ame Shinobi will come here very soon?" Everyone snapped their heads up. They really didn't realize the incoming problem until the Dode Sage reminded them. The sun was starting to rise at the horizon, And if they didn't get out of here soon, Shinobi of Amigakure would definitely notice and come for them. Hiruzen looked at Jiraiya, who glanced at Gameken still standing next to them. Sasuke paled. Oh, no, not that again. When Pain opened the door to his chamber, facing him were the worried eyes of Konan and the judging glares from Zetsu and Tobi. What happened to the Jinchuriki? Tobi jumped to the question, not bothering to hide his anger. Itachi Uchiha broke him out and ran away with him, Pain answered. His eyes didn't leave the Sharingan inside the hole of his mask. But leader has the Rinnegan, White Zetsu asked. And yet he couldn't stop them from running away? There wasn't anything clearer than the insulting tone in the plant man's voice. Pain's eyes narrowed. Are you mocking me? With the eyes of God, you should have been able to at least stop them on their way until backup arrived, Black Zetsu answered. And yet you let them get away without even being able to do anything to them. What does that supposed to mean? Then Zetsu, both of them, was slammed into the wall by the invisible force field coming from the Deva path. Don't you dare mocking me like that. Understand? Choked on his breath, Zetsu could only nod in silence. Pain let him go, and the plant man slumped down on the ground painfully. The only reason Naruto Uzumaki was able to escape today was because he had the support of Itachi, and the interference of the Hokage and Jiraiya of the Sannin. Konan's eyes widened when she heard the name. But the next time I meet them, there won't be any mercy. Every one of them will be crushed under my hands, and there won't be anything else they can do about it. Tobi's eye narrowed under his mask, but he didn't ask further. He grabbed Zetsu and disappeared in a vortex. There were only the Deva path and Konan alone in the room now. So? The blue-haired girl asked tentatively. You met Jiraiya-sensei? Pain's eyes turned toward her. Indeed. What of it? How was he? Did he remember us? And what is that supposed to do? Konan faltered before the glare of Yahiko's body. Well, I thought if Jiraiya-sensei understands what we're going to do. Whether he remembers us or not is not important, Pain cut her short. He's opposing us now, and that means he has to be killed, just like anyone who gets in our way of achieving peace. Now get out of my chamber. The words from Pain definitely hurt Konan, but she just nodded and walked out of the room without asking anything. Alone in his room, Pain couldn't help letting out a snort. As if someone like the Hokage could understand anything about peace. No way, considering it was all the Cage who forced wars upon innocent people anyway. But he couldn't deny the fact that what the Hokage had said and done definitely shook him. Never before had he seen a leader of a village bowing before someone. Nor offering his own life for the sake of other people. They just weren't supposed to do something like that. And during that battle, he hadn't even broken a sweat. Even against two paths at the same time, he had managed to stomp both of them down to the ground without much effort. He could have destroyed all three paths if he had tried. And yet he didn't. He had even given himself up, even when he had possessed the definite advantage. It didn't make any sense at all. For a split second, he wondered if what the man said was the truth. That he actually wanted peace for the whole world. You know that wasn't the truth. He was just trying to trick you. No Hokage can ever want peace, it is them who start wars. It was the Leaf Village who killed your parents, and your friend. Yes. That must be it. They must have tricked him. There's no way that could be true. This time he was so gullible that he was fooled by Konoha. But the next time, he won't let them get away. When he captures the Jinchuriki, Konoha will be the first village to be erased from the map for the sake of peace. But the important thing is, from the battle today, he had realized a crucial thing. Even with the eyes of God, he was still too weak compared to the Hokage and his old sensei. But there's no need to worry, now that he had already knew his weakness, he had more than enough time to improve himself. He is not going to let anyone stop him again. Even if that was the Hokage. Or his old sensei. There is no need to be hasty. What do you think? I don't know, but there is definitely something changing in Nagato. We will have to watch him more closely. The room was covered in a dim light. And standing in the middle of the room, talking, were Tobi and Zetsu. Should we push the plan forward? I'm starting to worry about this. It seems the battle with the Konoha Shinobi has affected him somehow, Zetsu asked. Maybe we should revive Madara early. No, Tobi shook his head. Nagato still has some value. He is still the best pawn we have in our hand to wield the power of the Rinnegan, and he is our trump card in gathering the tailed beasts. We will only revive Madara when I say so. And this is not the time. Well, that's your choice. But don't blame me when it backfires on your face. And with those words, Zetsu sank into the ground and disappeared. The room was empty again except for the figure of Obito Uchiha standing in it. Madara! I'll let you know, I'm not simply a pawn for you. The dream world I will achieve has no place for you in it. Tsunade lifted her head up when she heard someone knocking on her door. It's time, she smirked. Come in. Danzo opened the door and walked into the room. What do you summon me for, Tsunade? Tsunade raised an eyebrow. Is that the way to speak to your Hokage, Danzo? I don't remember you ever being elected Hokage, Danzo scoffed. Tsunade chuckled. Ah, true. But you see here, Hiruzen-sensei actually left an official note saying that he would leave the position of Hokage for me to hold until he comes back. And I think together with the agreement of the advisors, that is more than enough for me to be Hokage at least for now, ni? Against this simple argument, Danzo couldn't find any excuse to retort. He grumbled. Alright, how can I help you then, Hokage-sama? Ah, Tsunade smiled, ignoring the mocking tone in Danzo's voice. Today I call you here to ask you some questions about some rumors I've heard about you, Danzo. Danzo's single visible eye narrowed. What do you mean? To answer him, Tsunade placed a document file on her desk. See for yourself. Danzo opened the file, and his eyes narrowed. What the hell is this? This is the list of the students who enrolled into the academy during the last 10 years. It also shows the number of students who successfully graduated, and the ones who couldn't. Basically, this is one of the ways to keep track of the number of shinobi in the village. So? What does that have to do with me? Danzo scoffed. Just calm down, I haven't even finished yet, Tsunade smiled pleasantly. She opened the file to a page which had a lot of highlights. These are the students which had disappeared from the village right after graduating from the academy. Most of them are children from orphanages, so not many people would miss them, but in these cases, she pointed at 3 of the highlights, their families, right after they couldn't pass the final test of their Jonin senseis, suddenly left Konoha for unknown reasons, or in this case, she pointed at the last one, perished suddenly in a very suspicious accident. I don't even know what you're talking about, Danzo snorted. Are you implying that I'm kidnapping those kids? It was you who said that, not me, Tsunade blinked innocently. You. Danzo snarled. How dare you accuse me of something so slanderous? Do you have any proof? Tsunade shrugged. Well, naturally I wouldn't do that, but when I checked this list, there was a name which popped immediately into my mind. I didn't know about it until after I came back to Konoha, from Jiraiya and that Uchiha boy. She opened the list to a specific page and pointed at a highlighted name. Kabuto Yakushi. So? Danzo scowled. My source of information told me that there was a time you showed interest in that boy, saying that with enough training he could be a good spy, even as good as his caretaker in the orphanage, Nono Yakushi, said Tsunade. And after Nono was assigned a mission to Iwagakure, which I heard was assigned by you, Kabuto also disappeared without a trace. Only to reappear after a few years, now a spy for Orochimaru. What do you have to say about that? Humph, Danzo snorted. You said you're Hokage, and yet you believe in those stupid speculations based on mere rumors. Do you have any proof? Well, proof of that I don't have, but if you had wanted to accuse me of doing those things, you should have thought of finding the right evidences first, Danzo snapped angrily, then stood up. Now if you excuse me. Sit down, Danzo. Danzo growled. What now? I never said that I was finished, Tsunade said, but this time, her voice had become deathly cold. There is another thing I'm having suspicions about, which I know for sure you have something to do with. Danzo's eyes narrowed. What? Yeah, Tsunade nodded. It was about Shisui Uchiha. What did I have to do with Shisui Uchiha? Danzo scoffed. Everyone knows that Itachi Uchiha was the one who murdered him. Indeed, Tsunade nodded. I've never said you killed him, either. After all, he is one of the registered members of Root. Then. Tsunade cut him short. After Shisui Uchiha died and the massacre happened, not so many people are allowed to go near his body, or those of other members of the Uchiha clan. According to this autopsy report. She pulled out an envelope from her drawer. When his corpse was found in the Naka River, he was missing both of his eyes. I wonder how that could happen. Who knows? Danzo shrugged. Maybe Itachi stole them from him after killing him. Maybe, Tsunade nodded. But why was it that Shisui's body disappeared without a trace right after that autopsy was made? Danzo's eyes narrowed. Are you implying that I stole his body? Well, you are one of the only people who have access to such an important body after his death. Tsunade shot a fierce stare at Danzo. After all, he is an Uchiha, one of the strongest to boot, and as far as we know, the bodies of Uchiha clan members are the fittest for the usage of the Sharingan. I heard that after the Uchiha massacre, The bodies of the dead members were all destroyed to prevent them from being stolen, am I right? Enough of you and your baseless accusations. Danzo snarled, but in his single visible eye, there was now a very slight hint of wariness. If you don't have any other thing to say than slandering me, then don't waste my time, because you will never find any proof of me doing any of them. Good. He is starting to lose his calm. Sure, Tsunade waved him off. But what if I say that I have proof that you have done things someone like you has no authorization to do? Danzo's stomach made a jump. What? Sure, I don't have the evidence to blame you for those things I have just mentioned, Tsunade answered calmly, and pulled out another file from below her desk, but mobilizing the Anbu, no matter which division, into conflict with another village is still the privilege of the Hokage himself, ni? And yet. Her mouth twisted into a nasty grin. Why am I still holding a document from Salamander Hanzo of Amigakura requiring you specifically to send force to assist him? Now Danzo felt his stomach twist up. How could Tsunade get a hold on that document? There were only 4 people who knew about this, Salamander Hanzo, himself, and his eyes widened. Those bastards. How dare they betray him? For some reasons, the 2 nosy bastards of the Shinobi Council always managed to know what he was planning or doing, no matter how hard he tried to hide it. He hadn't expected it when they had managed to find out about his plan to assist Hanzo. After all, they were just 2 normal retired shinobi, they shouldn't have had the ability or force to do that. But after that he had managed to shut them up both with money and intimidation. But why now? And how in the world did they even manage to get that letter from his private chamber, after all the protection methods he had used to protect it? And don't even try to get revenge on them in any way, Danzo. As if knowing what he was thinking, Tsunade wagged her finger. Even if a single hair of them are harmed, no matter who did it, you will be the first one who I know is responsible for it, and you will be treated as a traitor of Konohagakure immediately and... You know what happens to traitors in this village. I'm afraid even those rude operatives of yours can't help you escape if that happens. He shouldn't have thought of keeping that letter as leverage against Amigakure in case something happened. What are you going to do now? He glared at Tsunade with his one visible eye. Kill me? Ah, no, Tsunade chuckled. I'm not that heartless, after all, you are one of the most influencing members of the village, and have serviced her for a very long time. Danzo's eye narrowed. Then. Tsunade's eyes gleamed. You will relinquish root into the care of the Hokage, effective immediately. What? Danzo yelled out in outrage. You cannot do that. You don't have the right to. Ah, actually, I do, Tsunade grinned. Actually, the Hokage is the one who allowed you to create and maintain root in the first place. Now that I'm Hokage, I actually can always take that privilege back, even if I don't have any reason. Considering what you did, it seems I cannot leave it in your hand any further. But... Ah, don't worry, Danzo, actually, I'm not going to cut off every connection of yours with root, the woman chuckled. In fact, I will still let you hold the place of head trainer for that division. You will provide them trainings in things related to jutsus and battle tactics. However, every one of those trainings will be under supervision of shinobi I appoint, and that is the only thing you can do with them. No more mobilizing them to do your underhanded jobs, and of course, no more wiping their emotion to make them heartless killing machines. Danzo gritted his teeth. And what if I don't obey? Well, in that case, I'm afraid I have no choice but to bring you to trial for your actions. Tsunade closed her eyes. As a citizen of Konohagakure, I'm pretty sure you know how a traitor would be treated in this village, am I right? Oh, I forgot, of course you know, after all, you are one of the people who created those laws at the first place, right? Danzo stood straight up. You do realize there will be consequences for this, don't you? Tsunade also stood up and stared straight into Danzo's visible eye. Listen up, Danzo, she growled. You used to be one of my granduncle's students. I don't know what he taught you, but I'm very sure he didn't teach you to treat shinobi as tools which can be thrown away after used. They are humans, and as such, they have the right to be treated as humans, the right to have emotion, and the right to think for themselves. If you take those rights away from them... Tsunade's sentence was cut off abruptly when a loud boom shook the ground right outside of the Hokage tower. What the hell is going on? Tsunade yelled, startled by the sudden quake. She hastily opened her window and jumped outside, completely forgetting about Danzo in front of her. Outside, she was met by the sight of Gameiken, with Hiruzen, Jiraiya, Itachi, Sasuke and an unconscious, armless Naruto on Jiraiya's hands. She exclaimed in horror. My god! What the hell happened to you? You can take care of us later, princess. Jiraiya answered her by screaming back. Naruto hasn't eaten for 4 days, he's in a very dangerous condition right now. We did give him a dose of glucagon, but he won't be able to hold it if you don't do anything soon. Tsunade's eyes widened. She turned and barked into the air. Anbu, go to the hospital and tell them to prepare the emergency protocol immediately. Then she turned back to the newly arrived shinobi, and only now did she realize who was among them. She snarled. You. Tsunade. Hiruzen quickly intervened. Let's get Naruto to the hospital first. He's in danger, remember? Hearing that, Tsunade reluctantly turned away, but not before throwing back another growl. Just remember, we're not done with this yet. Don't you dare running away. Then she leapt away toward the hospital, with Jiraiya right after her, still holding Naruto on his hands. Gameken also disappeared in a puff of smoke, leaving the Hokage and the two Uchiha in the middle of the street where they had arrived. An awkward silence lingered in the air. Let's follow them, Itachi. Finally, Sasuke patted his brother's arm. No one noticed a single eye looking down from the window of the Hokage office. Naruto's condition was stabilized. He has escaped danger, but he will have to stay here for a few days for further observation. And what the hell happened with his arms? Tsunade demanded upon walking out of the emergency room. That would be because of the leader of the Akatsuki, Jiraiya said. Do you remember the 3 orphans I took up in Amigakure? Well, after I left, they went and formed the Akatsuki, and Nagato somehow became the leader, which is known as Pain, and... Tsunade clicked her tongue. I told you those kids were bad news. Jiraiya shook his head. Actually, they become like today partially because of that bastard Danzo. Nagato himself told us about that. He said that Danzo was the reason why the Akatsuki was born with the current purpose. Tsunade's eyes widened. So that's why that letter exists. Hiruzen, standing next to them, blinked. What letter? Tsunade showed him the letter addressed to Danzo from Salamander Hanzo. The Hokage's eyes darkened when he finished reading the letter. Danzo has gone too far this time. Tsunade nodded. Yes. And if this action of his leads to another Shinobi World War. Before your arrival, I was going to issue a sanction against him by taking over route, but... Tsunade was interrupted when Itachi and Sasuke walked into the corridor. What do you want now? She barked rather harshly at Itachi's face, making Sasuke next to him wince. I'm here to give you this. He took out a scroll from his pouch. This scroll contains Naruto-kun's left arm which I managed to salvage from Pain. I couldn't recover the other one, so... Tsunade's eyes went cold. So you think bringing his arm back will help you win my favor? Itachi averted his gaze. Well, no. I just think that since I was the one who did this to him, I must do something to redeem myself, so... Tsunade opened her mouth, but suddenly stopped when Hiruzen's hand grabbed her shoulder. Tsunade, calm down, said the third Hokage. He was the one who brought Naruto back here, at least he has the good intention. The legendary medic gritted her teeth, but still complied. She walked forward and took the scroll from Itachi's hand. Then with a sudden movement, she cocked her fist back and punched the Uchiha in the face. The man flew all the way across the corridor and slammed his back to the wall at the end with a sickening crunch. That's for kidnapping Naruto and leaving him in this state, you bastard, she yelled and turned away, disappearing behind the door leading to the operation room. Itachi pushed his body up painfully. The right side of his face was swelling up. That punch must have taken a few teeth in his mouth. You're lucky she didn't use her strength-enhancing technique, Jiraiya looked down on the Uchiha and noted. If she did, you wouldn't even have a face now. But really, I have to say that you deserve it, Itachi. Poor Itachi couldn't find a word to say. Or it was because his mouth was hurting so much. Speaking about that, Hiruzen walked up. Come to my office later, Itachi. There is something I have to say to you. Now I have some work to do. See you all later. Then he disappeared in a body flicker. So, should we go home? Asked Sasuke tentatively. Itachi didn't want to step foot into the place again. The memories about that fateful day were still too clear, too vivid inside his head. Even though it was not him who murdered the whole Uchiha clan in cold blood, he still couldn't deny the fact that it was him who had killed his own parents, right in that room. It's over, father. Everyone who follows you and your mad plan of taking over Konoha by force is executed. Please surrender, and I won't have to do this. Fugaku Uchiha shot a fierce stare at Itachi. So you decided to betray the clan, Itachi? To betray your own father? Itachi glared back at Fugaku, who was sitting before him next to his mother, whose face was holding a devastated expression. Why, father? Why does everything have to be like this? A real Uchiha has to give up everything for the sake of his clan, The Uchiha patriarch answered him with a disturbingly calm voice, and didn't even flinch when what obviously were the Mangekyo Sharingan in his son's eye sockets bore into his own eyes. "If you betrayed the clan, you are not my son. This is why I said I had lost all my hope about this pathetic clan," Itachi snapped angrily, his eyes showing definite pain. "Not everything in this world revolves around the Uchiha, why couldn't you face it? You and all those people." "Now I have understood, it wasn't the second who isolated us from the rest of the village, it was us who did that to ourselves, thinking that with the Sharingan we can dominate everything, that no one is equal to us. Then you can just kill me and be done with it," Fugaku Uchiha said simply and closed his eyes. Itachi raised his tanto. Tears dampened his face, rolling down his cheeks. "Are you really sure you want things to happen like this?" Fugaku's face didn't show any expression. "Do it," he said. With a face full of anguish, Itachi closed his eyes, and brought down his blade. Even walking back into the Uchiha district reminded him about things he didn't want to remember. He could still see it, as clear as day. Itachi walked out of his house, only to see a scene of carnage. What just happened here? Corpses of Uchiha clan members littered the ground. Walls were splattered with dark, red blood. There was absolutely no sound in the air, not even the flapping noise of a bird. It was a massacre. There was no other living person within the border of the Uchiha clan ground, except for Itachi himself, and the one standing over there. It was him. The one who massacred the whole Uchiha clan. He was standing there, holding a sharp, long kama. Dripping with blood. "You!" Itachi snarled at the man in front of him. Or woman, it's hard to say which gender it was under that spiral mask. "What have you done? Who are you? Come on now, Itachi-kun," the voice of the masked person rose mockingly. Now Itachi could identify it as the voice of a man. "Isn't it your goal to get rid of the Uchiha clan? I just did that for you, you should have thanked me for that. How dare you?" Itachi screamed. He drew his tanto and rushed the masked man, but his blade only passed through him harmlessly, as if he was made of air. "What the?" The masked man turned back to Itachi. And now, the young Uchiha could see what was lying within the hole on the mask. A Sharingan. "I have to compliment you, Itachi-kun," the masked man said. "You might be the most powerful Uchiha I've seen in this era. Although, that power was wasted in serving this pathetic village. If you go with me, you might have a chance to grow even more yet." "Why should I even listen to you?" Itachi demanded, pointing his blade at the masked man. Answering him was a creepy chuckle. "Oh, but you don't have a choice. You will come to me, no matter what you want. Soon. But that's not what matters now. Your little brother is coming home. And you will have to find a reason to explain for this carnage. Until then." Then, to Itachi's horror, space around the masked man started to twist. A wormhole opened in the air, and the killer disappeared inside it, but not before throwing back the words the young Uchiha would remember for life. "Remember, sooner or later you will serve under the great Madara Uchiha. You won't be able to escape your fate." "What's wrong, Itachi?" Itachi nearly jumped. He had completely forgotten that his brother was walking beside him. He shook his head. "No, nothing. It's just..." Sasuke raised his hand to touch his brother's arm. "You're finally back home, right? There is nothing to worry about anymore." Itachi didn't say anything for a while. Then, he sighed heavily. "I haven't told you about when I had to kill Mother, right?" Itachi looked away from the corpse of his father on the ground. More like, he couldn't stand looking at it anymore. He looked at his mother, who was trembling like crazy on the ground. "Mother, it's over." He walked towards her and reached out a hand. Mikado Uchiha didn't take his hand. She just looked at the body of her husband lying motionlessly on the ground in a pool of blood with empty eyes. "What is going to happen now?" she mouthed, and Itachi cringed when he heard her voice. He had never thought, for once, that there would be a day when he had to hear his mother's voice so devastated, so hollow. It was like she had completely lost her will to live. "Everything has ended, Mother." Itachi kneeled down, dropping his tanto next to him. Father's mad plan to take over Konoha by force was thwarted, the risk of a civil war is now averted. You and Sasuke won't have to worry about anything else. Is it really worth it? Itachi grabbed his mother's arm. Would you rather let Konoha be overthrown from the inside by father and his lackeys? Do you know what will happen? It will just be another Kyuubi attack. Many innocent people will die. Do you understand that? I understand. There was something in the voice of Mikoto which made Itachi feel suspicious. Then. But Fugaku is still my husband. Since I got married to him, he has become my purpose in life. Now that he's dead, In a split second, Itachi understood what his mother was going to do. He reached out for his sword, but it was too late. Mikoto was able to snatch the tanto out of the ground before he could even touch it. Splurred. It was just like watching a nightmare being played in slow motion. Itachi could only scream out when his mother, with the skill and flexibility of a veteran kunoichi, brought up the tanto and slashed herself across her own neck. "Why?" he muttered in shock and pain, cradling the body of his mother, which was getting colder and colder in his hands, with blood spurting out from her neck. "Why are you doing this? Take care of Sasuke," she croaked out. Her black eyes found her son's red irises, but after a second, the light in the depth of the dark pair vanished, and Mikoto Uchiha moved no more. The weight of what his brother had just said completely sent Sasuke into a loss of word. He couldn't even expect things to have happened that way. His father had always been someone who hungered for power, he knew, but the fact that his mother had committed suicide just because of sheer loyalty for him. "There hasn't been a day I didn't think about that night." Itachi's voice sounded broken now. "She died by my sword, and yet I couldn't do anything. That's no different from me killing her. I killed my own mother, when she didn't even do anything bad. What kind of son am I?" He didn't say anything else and started crying in silence. Hearing someone like the always stoic Itachi Uchiha crying was just so heartbreaking. For a while, no one said anything. Then, Sasuke stood up, and grabbed his brother's shoulder. "You know what? I don't think you should torture yourself about that anymore. It's actually not your fault, isn't it?" Itachi gritted his teeth in anguish. "Sasuke. You can't understand. Murdering your own parents is the worst sin a human being can have. Now that I not only killed my own parents, I was also the reason why the whole Uchiha clan, full of innocent people, was completely massacred. You can't understand how hard it was just to walk into this clan ground. It made me think back of that night. That bloody night. And that man. Even though I met him every day during my time in the Akatsuki, I just couldn't. Even with these eyes." He punched the ground in anger and hopelessness. Sasuke closed his eyes for 5 seconds. And at the 6th, his grip on Itachi's shoulder tightened. "Then teach me." Itachi shook his head. "Sasuke, help me become stronger," Sasuke insisted. "In the future, there will be a time we have to face that man. But this time, you will not have to face him alone. I will be with you, standing next to you as an equal, as a member of the Uchiha clan, and we will face him together, proclaim justice for the clan together." Itachi looked up at his brother. "Together?" "Yes," Sasuke said with a small smile. "After all, we are brothers, right?" The older Uchiha couldn't say anything for a while. And then, with the first smile ever since he set foot into the compound, he grabbed his brother's hand. "Yes. We are brothers." Sakura was utterly confused when she heard Tsunade summoning her to the hospital. She had asked to be the legendary medic's apprentice right after returning to the village from the search, but the Sannin just brushed her off, saying that she needed to consider it first. And now she's calling her to the hospital, to where she was working. Sakura gulped. Raising her hand, she knocked at the door. "Come in," the voice of Tsunade came out from inside the room. Hesitantly, she opened the door and walked in. "Tsunade-sama, how can I help you?" "Ah, finally you're here." Tsunade closed the book she was reading shut and stood up. "There is something I want to say to you." "Now, sit." Sakura sat down on the chair in front of Tsunade's desk. Her mind started getting worried. Why was the vibe of the room suddenly getting so serious? Tsunade-sama. She asked tentatively. "Is there something wrong?" Tsunade didn't answer immediately. Instead, she looked all over Sakura, as if contemplating something. Then, she asked. "Before, you asked me to make you my apprentice. Is that right?" Sakura blinked. "Yes, but..." Tsunade smiled. "Then today I have something for you to do. You have studied about medical jutsu and its practice, right?" When Sakura nodded, Tsunade pulled out a scroll from her drawer. "Do you know what this is?" Sakura shook her head. The medic nodded, and opened the scroll. Inside, there was a sealing formula with the kanji seal. "This sealing scroll contains one of Naruto's missing arms. I am going to reattach it to him, when his condition is better. Right now, he is too weak to handle the surgery." "Naruto has returned?" Sakura exclaimed in surprise. "But why?" "That, even I haven't known fully yet," Tsunade shook her head. "But what is going to happen is that I'm going to do the surgery myself, but I will need assistance. You are someone who has learned about the medical art, so are you up to the task?" "Me?" Sakura blinked, startled. "But I mean, I have only trained in medical jutsu for a few months. I don't have as much experience as Shizune-san or the other doctors. Tsunade smiled. Just consider this a test. You want to become a medic, am I right? So I will need to know if you have what it takes to become one. Depending on the result, I will consider if I can accept you as my apprentice. So, are you up to the task? She asked again, looking straight into Sakura's eyes. Sakura gulped. This was too sudden. But for some reason, she didn't feel any fear, or hesitation. The feeling she was having. It was more like thrill. This was the chance for her to do it, to have a way to become stronger, more useful. And a chance for her to help Naruto. Yes, I am. Naruto was walking through his mindscape. In the heat of the battle with pain, he had completely forgotten this, but now when he finally remembered, he could not ignore this work anymore. His legs stopped in front of a giant cage. He reached up to the lock by his right hand and touched it. The lock glowed, and started opening. Yes, in his mindscape, Naruto still had both his arms. Don't ask why or how. The lock opened completely with a loud crack, and the door of the cage swung open. Oni-chan. The next thing Naruto knew was that he was engulfed in a sea of white, slimy flesh. Ack. Saikyo-chan. It's nice to see you too. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. The slug cried out while pulling Naruto even further into her body. Hearing the words coming all around him in her voice was so heartbreaking. Naruto really wanted to say something, that it wasn't her fault, there's nothing for her to apologize about, but considering what was happening to him, choking out even a word was difficult enough already. Then again, how could he even be suffocated inside his own mind anyway? After a while, Saikyo released him, although her body was still trembling with emotion. Saikyo-chan. Finally, after managing to catch his breath, Naruto patted the slug's tail kindly. There is no need to say sorry, you just did what needed to be done, you know. But she sniffled. Slug doesn't have tears, but considering the uncontrollable tremble her body was getting through, Naruto could only assume that she was really crying. I nearly killed you. If you didn't. Stop me at that time. But I'm still alive, and that's everything matters to me, Naruto only said simply. You saved me, and I'm thankful for that. I actually only care that much, you know, he finished with a grin. Thank you, Saikyo-chan. Still as blunt as ever, eh, Naruto? The two turned, and saw the other tailed beasts walking toward them. Guys, Naruto exclaimed brightly. I have to say, this time you did a very good job, Naruto, Isabu commented. Managing to escape a wielder of the Rinnegan is definitely not something to be underestimated, you know. Naruto's face fell immediately. How can you call that a good job, Isabu? He said miserably. I couldn't do anything to make Nagato turn his head. I couldn't even do anything to stop Orochimaru from reviving himself. And that utter defeat against Itachi. To be fair, you cannot call the battle against Itachi an utter defeat, Goku noted. Even someone like me will have to say that during that fight you have done pretty well against someone who is way more experienced, way more skilled than you like that Uchiha boy. Had that fight been longer by about 10 more minutes, you would have won. Don't try to cheer me up, guys, Naruto said glumly. I know that even with all those training, I'm still not strong enough. If only I have more power. Oh, what matters isn't how much power you have, but rather what you have and how you use it, Naruto. I know that. Naruto snapped at Kokuo, who had just said those words, in frustration. But right now, I feel like I don't even have anything. Even my arms. The horse raised an eyebrow. Really? Or maybe you actually have that power, it's just because you don't know that you have it? Naruto blinked. What do you mean? I have a power I don't know I have? Of course you do, Kokuo let out a chuckle. If you are still wondering, think back to the battle with pain. Naruto thought back. At this time, when his life was in danger, a miracle had happened. The shining mirror of Amaterasu, coming from nowhere to protect him. But Kokuo smiled. It seems you understood. Congratulations, Naruto, you have unlocked the power of the regalia of the soul. Silence filled the air in Naruto's mindscape. What the hell is that regalia of the soul thingy? Shukaku asked, confused. Kokuo didn't give a straight answer. Rather, he asked. Do you remember when Father created us, he gave each of us some of his special abilities? When everyone nodded, the horse continued. What you guys don't know is that wasn't the only thing he gave us tailed beasts. When Father gave birth to us, he already expected something like this might happen, And he gave each of us a hidden ability as a failsafe in case things goes wrong. That is what the regalia of the soul are, weapons whose power comes from the tailed beasts themselves, legendary equipments with powers surpassing even the most powerful weapons in the planet. The ultimate power a Jinchuriki, or rather, a partner of a tailed beast, can achieve, when their souls finally synchronize as one. Wow, Naruto marveled in awe. So it means some other Jinchuriki have achieved it before? No. Since the time our father created us from the 10 tails, you are the first and the only one who has ever achieved such a feat. That piece of information nearly made Naruto lose his balance. Wait, what? I thought you guys have a very close bond with other Jinchuriki, like B or Fu already? Kokuo nodded. Indeed, some of the Jinchuriki might have already formed a close bond with us, but there is still another requirement for a Jinchuriki in order to be able to unlock the power of the regalia. He or she has to master creation of all things. And since the beginning of the Shinobi world, you are the only one besides our father who managed to reach this level. The ones with a bond deep enough didn't have access to the technique, and the ones who knew the technique just didn't have a deep enough bond. Although, I have to admit, some of them might be very close to unlock the regalia as well, like Fu, for example. And your affinity seems to focus on weapons only, but since the regalia of the soul are all weapons. Wait a second. If that's the case, why does no one of us even know about it? Muratabi voiced her question. Kokuo shook his head. Even I don't know everything about it. When we were born, the only thing about it I was informed by father was the name of the technique and how to achieve it. He didn't even mention what it was or what it could do. So, I think this is what you have to figure out on your own, Naruto. Naruto face-bombed. Another thing I have to figure out on my own. Great, just great. First the Flying Thunder God, now this. When I don't even have a clue what I'm doing. It might take years before I could. He broke off. His face suddenly tensed up, alarmed. And without a warning, he disappeared from his mindscape. What the exclaimed Shukaku in surprise. Why did he? Naruto's eyes snapped open. Right in front of him, standing next to his bed, were 3 cloaked human figures. Each of them was wearing a blank porcelain mask. A hand clamped his mouth with a handkerchief full of chloroform smell, and immediately, he didn't know anything else other than darkness. Sakura sighed. Even though she's thrilled to be in the operation room to help Naruto regain his arm, for some reason, she still felt a little bit worried. She's still an inexperienced medical trainee. If she messed up something in the process, well, better go let Naruto know about that first, she guessed. Her hand reached the doorknob to Naruto's recovery room. Then suddenly, she heard something fall inside the room. Her senses immediately went overdrive. She kicked the door open without holding back anything, and saw it. There were 3 human figures wearing blank, white masks standing next to the recovery bed, and one of them was holding something on his shoulder. Which looked like the body of an unconscious Naruto. What the hell are you doing with Naruto? She screamed, and launched herself towards the 3 kidnappers with a jet step. But before she could even reach them, one of the assailants had moved into her way and aimed a swift kick at her face. She immediately raised her arms to block, and the feet crashed at her forearms, sending her back a few steps. Go ahead, the one intercepting Sakura told his partners. His voice was cold and emotionless, which sent chill down Sakura's spine. I'll deal with her. The 2 other kidnappers nodded, then with Naruto on the shoulder of one of them, they jumped out of the windows. And landed right in front of Hinata, Fu, and Karen, who were on the way to the hospital to visit Naruto after knowing he was back. Shanru-uo. A loud crashing sound of glass breaking, and the remaining kidnapper flew out of the window and landed on the ground with a backflip. Sakura also landed with a thud on the ground in front of him. Hinata, Fu, Karen. Those guys kidnapped Naruto. Stop them. But her command was redundant. Immediately after seeing the 2 figures landing in front of them, the 3 other girls already knew what was going on, and they reacted as quickly as a ninja should be, slipping into their battle stances and surrounded the 3 kidnappers. Who are you? Fu demanded, pointing at the 3 kidnappers. What business do you have with Naruto-kun? Why are you kidnapping him? Answering her was a cold, calculative silence when the 3 figures prepared themselves for battle. Karen's eyes narrowed. Being a former kunoichi of Kusagakur, read, Otogakur, she knew what a dangerous enemy felt like. They usually don't talk much, but each of their moves will bring deadly consequences to their opponents. And these guys were just like that. They're silent, they're shady, and how deadly they were, only God could know. Hell, they had managed to kidnap Naruto in his sleep without him being able to do anything. Why? And how could these people appear in the middle of Konoha and no one even batted an eye was beyond her fathoming. And the worst thing is, they didn't even show a sign of emotion. Even after being surrounded, they just didn't show any reaction, as if this was something they did every day. It's just like they don't have any emotion at all. No wonder why Naruto couldn't realize them coming at him, even with his emotion-sensing ability. And that was the reason why rushing in recklessly was suicidal. All four of them were just Jonin. If these three knew just the most basic things about teamwork, they might be stomped to the ground without a chance to raise their hand. The only reasonable way they could do this was to separate them. Karen shot a glance toward Hinata. For some reason, since she became an official shinobi of Konoha, she had formed an odd friendship with the shy Hyuga girl. They usually hanged out together, and somehow they could understand each other better than any other girls. They even trained with each other a lot, and as such, they had been very familiar with each other's skills, and even created some new techniques together. As if understanding what she was thinking, Hinata turned to her and nodded. And it seemed Fu and Sakura had also understood her intention, because they suddenly tensed up and looked at the three assailants with a calculating eye. She looked at Fu. The Jinchuriki looked back at her, and she understood what was in that look. Just do as we always practice. Go. With a loud cry, Karen threw what she was holding on her hand toward the three enemies like a baseball. The force of the throw wasn't very strong, it just fell in front of the three kidnappers harmlessly. Or so they thought before they realized what the object actually was. A grenade. Scatter. The three enemy shinobi hastily jumped out of the way, and the grenade exploded with a deafening bang. No doubt a lot of shinobi would be alerted and come to the hospital right away. DCH. Then from inside the cloud of smoke emerged something which surprised them even more. Fu, with a pair of wings growing out of her back, had charged through the smokescreen, aiming for the one carrying Naruto. But the enemy shinobi proved that they're not just normal cannon fodders. With a very quick movement, the one carrying Naruto deftly tossed his baggage to one of his partners. Fu managed to ram him and push him away from the other two, but their target was recovered. Now all they had to do was getting away. Losing one of them wasn't at all important, what mattered was to bring the target back to their master. Escape this, bastards. Shanaru. No. They didn't forget about the three other girls. They just didn't expect Karen, in just a moment after throwing the grenade, to be able to get to Sakura and toss her toward them. And the loud crack coming out from the gauntlet-like device on Sakura's fists definitely wasn't anything good for them. Immediately, the one not holding Naruto left his comrade's side and changed his target to the girl flying toward them. His hands flipped through some hand seals, and his body was instantly covered in a very thick armor of rock. Sakura's cartridge-enhanced punch met the rock armor, and despite being protected so thoroughly, the shinobi was still sent flying far away from his partner. Not wasting even a split of a second, right upon touching the ground, Sakura launched herself following the flying enemy with a jet step full of vengeance, determining to capture him at all cost. Leaving the one holding Naruto alone. You're not going anywhere. The one who said that was Hinata, who was now standing in front of the kidnapper with her Byakugan flaring up furiously. You've picked the wrong people to mess with, you bastards. Karen also walked up behind him, cracking her knuckles. I will never forgive you for trying to kidnap my little brother. Why do these guys want to kidnap Naru-kun? What did he do to them? Beats me. Maybe he messed with them with his pranks or something? Fu was sweating. Just by trading a few blows, she already knew that she was facing a very dangerous foe. Being a Jinchuriki, with the total cooperation of the tailed beast inside her, Fu knew she had tremendous power in her possession. But no matter how much power she had inside, when it came to skill, she was just at the level of a Chunin at best. And the man she was facing had to be at least on Bu level. His taijutsu and ninjutsu were both way more advanced than that of a normal Chunin level shinobi. They could very well have been able to match that of Anko-sensei. And the way he moved. It was so firm, so experienced, as if he had been a shinobi for all his life. And that's what made Fu worried. She knew that even people with extreme power could lose against ones with more skill and experience. Just remember the battle between Naruto and Itachi to see. But that wasn't what she should worry about now. What mattered was that she had to bring him as far away from the others as possible. She clapped her hands together, and the wings on her back flared up with golden and red chakra, just like the color of sunfire. Fire style, heat wave, she yelled, flapping her fiery wings. From there, a wave of scorching air blasted out toward the enemy shinobi. The heat coming from the chakra flare was so terrifying all the grass on its way withered away in an instant, and the masked shinobi was forced to conjure a wall of water in front of him to block. The wave of hot air clashed against the water wall, making a loud hissing noise. A very thick cloud of steam covered the battlefield. Fu grinned. This was exactly what she was waiting for. Against a more experienced enemy, any advantage a shinobi could gain was always welcome. And with Fu, the Jinchuriki of the seven-tailed beetle Chomei, that advantage was the disturbance of vision. Not everyone knew about this fact, but being together with Chomei since she was born, Fu possessed a rather peculiar ability to be able to hear and single out the sound of insects flapping wings. Before, when she first clashed against the kidnapper, she had planted a few bugs on the cloak he was wearing, and now, with the very tiny sound those bugs were sending out, she could know exactly where the enemy was standing, while with all the steam covering his vision and the sound of flapping coming from her wings echoing around, the masked kidnapper had no way to figure out where she was. And there he was, standing helplessly inside the screen of steam, seemingly not being able to do anything else. But right at that time, she felt something wrong. She immediately snapped her head down and saw it. A horde of insects were crawling up her legs, and seemingly sucking her chakra off her body, while pumping something else into it. Her eyes widened. She could realize this immediately, anytime, anywhere. One of her newest friends in the Konoha 15 was Shino, an Aburame clan member, a specialist in using insects as a weapon. The Kikai insects he used were very similar to these ones crawling up her legs, but at the same time, lingering within the swarms were some other, larger bugs Fu hadn't seen before. And her legs were starting to feel numb. Those strange insects must have been poisonous. The shinobi inside the steam screen seemed to also understand that she had realized. He threw his right hand up, and from the ground, swarms of Kikai insects blasted up and starting to cover Fu's body. She immediately made the decision. Pulling at Chomei's chakra, she clapped her hands together. Insect noise. All the insects fell off Fu's body at once when a loud burst of supersonic buzzing noise blasted out from her wings. The sound wave swept through the hospital yard, and everyone hearing it all lost their balance for a moment. Not even stopping to take a breath, she lunged herself into the cloud of steam, where the enemy was standing. Even though her legs were disabled, she still had her wings. Her advance, powered by a tailed beast herself, there was no way someone using insect jutsu with a hive nearly drained from the attack before could stop it. Bam! The cloaked shinobi was sent flying into the wall, his back crashed into the flat surface with a painful thud. It seemed even he didn't expect the Jinchuriki girl to do something so recklessly and suddenly. But the moment passed as fast as it had come. He leapt back on his feet, ready to continue the battle. Well, it must be that you don't want to live anymore to mess with my student. All around the two combatants, snakes suddenly popped out from underground, surrounding the cloaked kidnapper. Now, how am I going to deal with you, I wonder? Anko, the newcomer, stepped in with a maniacal grin. Anko-sensei, Fu exclaimed in relief. The cavalry had arrived, now she wouldn't have to worry about anything else. The kidnapper backtracked a step. He knew he was overwhelmed in number, that girl, whom he still hadn't known the full extent of power, and a jonin who was infamous in Konohagakure as the Snake Mistress, former apprentice of the legendary Sanin Orochimaru himself. From his sleeve fell out something round and small. Anko's eyes widened. Watch out! The grenade exploded, drowning the three shinobi in a thick cloud of smoke. When it was cleared, there was no sign of the enemy shinobi anymore. Damn it! Yeah. Sakura threw another punch at her opponent's face. But just like before, the attack was easily predicted and blocked by the cloaked shinobi. She backflipped a few steps, breathing heavily. Attacking with reckless taijutsu, even with the assistance of her jet step technique, was useless. Such an experienced enemy could predict what she was going to do and neutralize her attacks easily. Facing the shinobi somehow gave her a feeling of hopelessness. It was just like the first time she'd faced Kakashi together with Team 7. She shuddered when remembering about that battle. At that time, she couldn't even notice Kakashi sneaking up at her from behind. And he had knocked her out with just a simple genjutsu. It proved that the gap in power between a jonin and a jonin was just too great. There's absolutely no chance if a jonin-leveled shinobi had to fight solo against a jonin-leveled one. And this fight was just like that. The biggest problem with Sakura was her inferiority complex. Even after her rigorous training with her two teachers, she still couldn't shake off the feeling that she was weaker than other shinobi of her age completely. Therefore, she was easily to be intimidated when fighting against stronger, more experienced shinobi. And someone who specializes in psychology would definitely notice that and exploit that weakness. You're afraid. Even Sakura couldn't expect the shinobi to open his mouth. Huh? Your mind is in turmoil right now, the cloaked shinobi continued. You know that you are just a normal jonin with less than average abilities. Your arms and legs are trembling. You know that your meager taijutsu techniques cannot even lay a finger on me. You just want to run away, right now." Sakura gritted her teeth. This was the tactic Neji had tried to use on her during their match in the Chunin exam. At that time, she had managed to shrug it off easily. But for some reason, this time she couldn't even lift her eyes off the cloaked figure in front of her. His voice was just hypnotizing. Unconsciously, she took a step back, as he continued advancing toward her. "You know if you don't run away, I will kill you." Your eyes are glancing left and right, finding a way to escape. You are unconsciously retreating. You know that if you don't escape now, you won't have another chance. And he raised his hands, and Sakura immediately understood what he was going to do. But he was too close, there was no way she could escape. Mind disturbance jutsu. What just happened? Every thought and worry in Sakura's head seemed to have been wiped gently away, leaving her in a vague, untraceable happiness. She just stood there, feeling utterly relaxed, only dimly aware of the cloaked shinobi watching her. Then she heard the command of the masked shinobi, echoing somewhere within her empty brain. "Draw the kunai. Kill yourself." Her hands reached into the weapon pouch and drew the kunai obediently, ready to stab herself in the stomach. For what reason? A dry, sarcastic voice suddenly awoke in the back of her brain. Sakura blinked drowsily. She knew this voice. It was hers. Or rather, her inner's. It had been a long time since she last heard that voice. "What are you killing yourself for?" said the inner voice. It was stupid, really. How can you let yourself be controlled like this? Kill yourself. "No, you won't," inner's voice said, more firmly. "If you kill yourself here, you won't be able to fulfill your promise. Your promise to Naruto, to Sasuke-kun, to become stronger, worthy of being in the same team with them. Are you going to abandon that promise of your life? Are you that worthless of a person? Don't underestimate me. Kill yourself. Now. I am not your puppet." And the control of the shinobi over Sakura snapped like a bunch of twigs. He stumbled back, holding his head as if he was in excruciating pain. Being stunned, there was no way he could dodge the punch from Sakura, who was coming at him in a very fast speed, courtesy of an explosive second-shift jet step. Shanruo. The cartridge-boosted punch finally met the destination it had been directed to, the cloaked shinobi's face. The mask he was wearing shattered, and Sakura could catch a glimpse of blonde hair inside it before her fist landed squarely in his nose, shattering the bone inside it and launched the shinobi away. His back slammed into the bark of a tree at the back of the yard, and he slumped down, defeated. She could hear loud yells calling her name from somewhere far. Reinforcement had arrived, and she had defeated her own enemy. "I did it," she said weakly, and finally, her strength was exhausted. She collapsed on the ground. Hinata and Karen eyed their opponent warily. Despite being surrounded, the lone kidnapper still didn't show even a slight thread of emotion. He just stood there, eyeing the two kunoichi from under his mask calmly, as if considering a way to eliminate them the most effectively without attracting too much attention. Even though this one seemed to be younger than the two others, it was still the look of a trained veteran assassin in his eyes, not of a normal shinobi. Then, with a sudden movement, he tossed Naruto to the ground and whipped out something from his sleeve. Following his hand, Karen could figure out the shape of something long, made of paper. A scroll. The mindset of a talented Uzumaki sealmaster in training immediately caused her to think that was a sealing scroll, just like what Tenten used to store her weapons and launch them like projectiles. Until she saw the content inside it. There was nothing inside. It was a completely blank scroll, and with the brush already out, Karen could figure out what he was going to do. "Don't let him do anything with that scroll, Hinata," she yelled, and threw a handful of shuriken at the shinobi, who jumped out of the way to avoid them. At the same time, Hinata rushed in, and launched a very quick and precise gentle fist strike at a place where, while not lethal, would render a grown-up person unable to stand for a week at least. But her effort was just in vain. The shinobi, with an extravagant movement, managed to dodge the dangerous strike just narrowly and jumped back before the two girls could even do anything else. His brush lashed out on the blank scroll, and Hinata's eyes widened when she saw what was appearing with an incredible speed on the white paper. She had heard Kurenai-sensei talking about people with this kind of ninja art. But to face a real one. From inside the scroll, two huge tigers made of ink shot out and jumped the two kunoichi like two real predators leaping at their exposed prey. Hinata grimaced. Her normal gentle fist strikes were no match for these creatures, but if she didn't do something, she would be killed for sure. "Get back, Hinata." Hearing Karen's voice behind her, Hinata immediately understood what she must do. She leapt back right before the two tigers crash-landed right at the place where she had just stood, and from behind, two kunai with explosive tags struck the two ink creatures and destroyed them with two loud bang. Ink splattered everywhere. Now, knowing that this was her chance, Hinata focused her chakra into the index and middle fingers of her right hand. Her father had taught her one of the more powerful techniques of the gentle fist art, the vacuum palm. It was a move requiring a forceful push of focused chakra from the hand of the user toward the enemy. It allowed a practitioner of the gentle fist style, which depends almost solely on close combat, to have a way to combat enemies from a distance. But the technique has a very troublesome drawback. If there's a lot of chakra focused into the technique, it would shoot out as a very fast and deadly projectile, but if the chakra focused into it was too little, the projectile would just be like a harmless ball thrown by an amateur pitcher, which was just a waste of chakra. And Hinata definitely didn't have enough chakra to fire something of that caliber. But she, together with her friends Karen and Fu, had found a way to get around that problem. Instead of focusing a lot of chakra into her palm, she would just do that into two of her fingertips. With the very high density of chakra in such a small area, it would increase the speed of the technique to an extreme level far surpassing the original technique. And if she added another step of spinning her stored chakra around her fingertips, just as Fu had suggested, it would give the technique a necessary stability and power. Not unlike Naruto's Rasengan. 8 trigrams. Divine. Shooter, she yelled, thrusting her index and middle fingers forward. The bullet of very dense, spinning like a typhoon chakra blasted out from her fingertips toward the masked shinobi with the speed of a bullet shot from a gun. Even though he could see it, there was no way his reaction could be fast enough to dodge it. He could only lean his body aside before the bullet arrived and tore apart a chunk of his torso. Hinata clapped her hands at her mouth, horrified. She knew her technique was effective, but she didn't expect it to be this effective. The shinobi stumbled back, before collapsing into a puddle of ink. What? Ink clone? Hinata's eyes widened. This kind of ink clone was similar to the water clone high-level shinobi tend to use, as in their solid clones, but that still didn't make sense. The Byakugan were supposed to see through the clone as it was only a chakra construct, not something like Naruto-kun's shadow clones. Unless, with the panoramic vision of the Byakugan, she saw the real kidnapper behind her. He had created an ink clone with the splattered ink on the ground, then substituted with it in just a split of a second. That's the reason why he could avoid the X-ray vision of the Byakugan. The one she was supposed to attack had actually been the real one after all, but the movement was so fast she couldn't react to pull back. A tanto was coming down at her shoulder in a deadly arc. She still couldn't use the rotation technique, despite Neji Niazan and her father training her so hard in it. But she had to try her best, if she didn't want to be killed. Then suddenly, the assailant stopped dead on his track. More like, he was stopped. Around his legs, arms and body, chains made of chakra was coiling around, restraining him from even moving a muscle. Weapon projection, adamantine attacking chain succeeded. From behind him, the voice of Karen rose triumphantly. The adamantine sealing chains jutsu is a very powerful sealing jutsu originated from the Uzumaki clan, which Orochimaru had always hungered for and tried to claim by taking in an Uzumaki. But despite being a pure-blood Uzumaki, to Orochimaru's disappointment and disgust, Karen hadn't been able to manifest it by herself, due to the fact no one knew about the technique enough to teach her how to use it. But, during the time staying in Konoha with Naruto and trained with him and the tailed beasts themselves, with her powerful Uzumaki chakra, Karen had been able to learn the weapon projection jutsu Naruto created and somehow combined it with the very limited knowledge she had about the adamantine sealing chains to make her own version of the technique. Of course, it didn't have the power to restrain something like a tailed beast, but if it was a normal human being, and there, being locked in place, there was no way the kidnapper could dodge the incoming strike coming from Hinata, who was standing right in front of him. Only one step left until Hinata's hand reached him. Then suddenly the whole clearing was drowned in a sea of fire. The kidnapper, before Hinata could even touch him, had gone up in flame, and the blazing inferno immediately engulfed both him and the Hyuga princess in a deafening explosion. Poor Hinata didn't even have chance to react. "Hinata!" Karen screamed, her fingers immediately went through hand seals faster than she had ever done before. Water style, water gun. "Oh, please, please, please. Please Hinata. Don't." The water jutsu extinguished the fire in no time, but the damages had been done. The smoke cleared, revealing a half-conscious Hinata lying in the middle of a crater made by the fireball. Her clothes and skin were burned quite badly. The kidnapper was nowhere to be found. No. Forgetting everything else, Karen ran toward her friend and kneeled next to her body. "Don't you dare dying on me, Hinata. I won't be able to look Naruto in the eyes if you do that." She pulled up her sleeve, and put her wrist near Hinata's mouth. "Here, Hinata. Bite me, quickly. It will help you heal. Come on." Ugh. What happened? That sound frightened Karen beyond anything she had experienced today. Naruto had woken up. Naruto groggily opened his eyes. The last few moments were a complete blank to him. The last thing he could remember was someone choking him with a piece of cloth full of a nasty smell. Ugh. What happened? He shook his head, trying to get back to his sense. Everything around him was foggy, the only thing he could see was two figures on the ground near him. Naruto-kun. Wait, that voice. He shook his head again, and now he managed to clear his eyes. And he saw it. Lying on the ground was Hinata, half conscious, her clothes were tattered, and her body was full of horrible burn marks. Her right hand was still reaching toward him unconsciously. And kneeling next to her was Karen, who was trying her best to make Hinata bite her arm in a desperate attempt to heal the Hyuga princess. Everything seemed to fly away from him, become smaller in his view. He couldn't even draw a breath. Hinata was dying, and it was because of him. Everything from his past suddenly flashed back across his brain at the same time. Hinata, Sakura, everyone. Dying. Right in front of him. Because of him. What? Have I? Why was the ground suddenly coming toward his face, so fast? Naruto. Medic. Anyone. Please come here. How? Is Naruto-kun? That was the first question Hinata asked after she was brought back to consciousness. Tsunade, standing next to her bed, smiled. He is, okay, little princess. As of now, I don't see any problem with his body. Although. She trailed off. Karen, who was sitting on a chair near Hinata's bed, asked in confusion. Although? What's wrong, Tsunade-sama? The legendary medic sighed. I don't know how to say this, but it seems after seeing you girls, especially Hinata, being injured during that battle, Naruto's spirit was kinda broken. Even when I did the operation to reattach his arm, he didn't even show any sign of emotion after he saw his arm back intact. That sounds bad. Fu, lying on her bed at a corner of the room, bit her lips. Tsunade nodded. Indeed. If thing doesn't change soon, Naruto won't even be Naruto anymore. Unfortunately, this is a problem of psychology, even I don't know how to fix it. Then. It's Tsunade's time to bite her lips. We can only wait and hope for the best. What's the report, Kakashi? Kakashi shook his head. Nothing, Hokage-sama. Those shinobi retreated too quickly after being defeated by the four girls. Although, the girls could confirm that two of those shinobi used insect jutsu and mind jutsu, just like those of Aburame and Yamanaka clans. And the last one used some kind of painting ninjutsu. Hiruzen pondered. So those kidnappers might have been people of the Aburame and Yamanaka clans. But we cannot speak for sure yet. The Aburame and Yamanaka aren't the only clans which specialize in those kinds of ninjutsu after all. Still, just notice the two clans about this. Maybe we will have to ask for their help in order to find those kidnappers. Yes, sir. After Kakashi had been out of the room, the Hokage narrowed his eyes. Why did something like this suddenly happen right after he got back, but not before? It's just like someone knew Naruto was kidnapped and just waited until he was brought back home to do it. The question was, who? He rapped his knuckle on the desk. An Anbu appeared in a gust of wind, bowing down to him. Sir. Bring me Danzo, and make sure that he comes here, the Hokage ordered. Yes, sir. Danzo pushed the door open and walked into the room. Hiruzen pointed at the chair in front of his desk. Sit, Danzo. What do you need me for, Hiruzen? The bandaged man came straight into question without bothering of beating around the bush. Recently, Naruto Uzumaki was ambushed in an attempt to kidnap him when he was resting in the hospital. The Hokage looked straight into Danzo's visible eye. Do you have anything to do with that? Danzo calmly met the stare of the Hokage, not even flinching a bit. Why do you think I'm related to that incident? The stare of Hiruzen hardened. The fact that Naruto was captured during his mission is something only people within the village know about. And no one knows that he would return today, except for the ones involved and a very small number of people who were at the scene at that time. And I heard from Tsunade that you were in this room at that time, am I correct? Yes, Danzo answered curtly. So? Then you should be someone who knew about his arrival. So you might as well have. The bandaged man cut in abruptly. Do you have any proof that I have anything to do with that? Remember, That is a very serious accusation, and as the Hokage, you shouldn't be doing things like that without any conclusive evidence, just like Tsunade did. He pushed at the Tsunade word with a sneer. The Hokage looked at Danzo's face with a calm, calculating gaze. Then, he asked. So you're saying you don't know anything about that incident? That's true, the bandaged man nodded. Now, if there's nothing else. Sit down, Danzo. I didn't say I was finished yet. Danzo scowled. Now what? Hiruzen threw a piercing glare at the leader of Root. Do you know that you are the reason why the world is on the verge of the Fourth Shinobi World War right now? I don't know what you are talking about, Danzo said, glaring back at the Hokage. I had a conversation with the leader of the Akatsuki when I went rescue Naruto, said Hiruzen coldly. He stated you were the one who was behind the death of his friend years ago, and as a result, the purpose and mo of the Akatsuki was changed from a peaceful mercenary group into what they're having at the moment. And this letter proved that what he said was the truth. He pulled out the letter Tsunade gave him before. So what do you have to say about that, Danzo? Is there anything wrong with what I did? Danzo retorted. It was war, and in a war, death is inevitable. If that so-called leader of the Akatsuki doesn't know that, then he doesn't deserve to be a ninja. This village is getting weaker because of that stupid ideal of peace in your head, Hiruzen, and I am the one who has to prevent that from happening. The thing is, you don't have the right to do what you did, Hiruzen declared with a chilling voice. You are not the Hokage, you don't have the right to do anything related to diplomatic military action. That is still the privilege of the Hokage, and I'm afraid you have gone too far this time. I hereby retract your right as the leader of Root, and from now on that branch of the Anbu will be under my control and supervision. Danzo growled. That foolish idea again. No, it's not foolish, Danzo, Hiruzen shot back, staring straight into the visible eye of Danzo. Konohagakure has long been away from the tradition of doing underhanded things to get to the top in the shinobi world. Just think about it, how many wars have this village and the world in general had to suffer from? No one in this world wants to get themselves through a war anymore. Someone who still clings to that ideal, that war is the only way to prove the power of a village, doesn't have anywhere to stand in the world nowadays. Danzo stood up. His features were thick with rage. This is your final word? I'm afraid so, said Hiruzen, also standing up. Then we have nothing else to say to each other. No, nothing, Hiruzen said calmly. But you are a smart man, so you should have learned from Orochimaru's mistake. You might have noticed that he was killed once and doesn't even have a village to return to anymore, but I'm still here, as the Hokage. If I were you, I wouldn't do anything foolish. Danzo didn't answer. He just turned his back and disappeared through the door. Hokage-sama, are you summoning me? Hiruzen smiled when he saw Itachi walked into his chamber. Ah, Itachi. Indeed, I called you here because I have something to tell you. Come in, and close the door. After Itachi had shut the door behind him, the Hokage said, I trust you know what we're going to talk about today. The Uchiha grimaced. It's about my punishment, isn't it? The Hokage nodded. Indeed. About what you did to Naruto, I'm afraid I cannot turn a blind eye. Therefore, I already thought of a suitable punishment for you, Itachi. Itachi closed his eyes. Very well, Hokage-sama. I'm ready to face any kind of punishment you want to impose on me. Hiruzen nodded again. Good. Then, your first punishment is that from now on, you are stripped of your shinobi status. You cannot take any mission as a shinobi of Konohagakure, you are not allowed to take any hostile action within and will not go out of the border of the Land of Fire unless there is permission from me. Is that clear? Very clear, Hokage-sama, Itachi bowed in acceptance. Then he blinked. But Hokage-sama, you said first. So that means? Yes, Hiruzen smiled. The second punishment for you, Itachi, is that I will proclaim the true reason and meaning behind the Uchiha massacre for the whole Konohagakure to know. Itachi's head snapped up as if he was just shocked by thousands of volts of electricity. What? Hokage-sama, you can't. Ah, Itachi, I can, and I will, the Hokage chuckled. After all, this is the most suitable punishment for you, ni? So are you going to accept it, or do I have to declare you treason and execute you in place? Itachi gritted his teeth. He knew he was defeated, and there was nothing else he could do but to hang his head. I accept, Hokage-sama. Good. Then dismiss. Have a good day, Itachi. The Uchiha bowed again, and retreated from the room, closing the door behind him. You're evil, sensei, Hiruzen chuckled. Why are you saying so, Jiraiya? The Toad Sage appeared in the room from thin air, dispelling his transparency jutsu. Do you even need to ask? With someone like Itachi, doing something like that to him was even worse than killing him, you know. I know, the Hokage nodded. But frankly, he deserves it in both ways. This might be a very big shock in his life, but it will help him escape from the dark past he has already had to suffer for a long time, and at least allow him to live in Konoha as a normal person. That's the only thing I can do for him now. And not allowing him to work as a shinobi might help Tsunade have the time to develop a cure for the degradation of his Mangekyo Sharingan, which might be a very important asset for us in the future. Remember, we still have a whole war waiting for us. The two men looked out the windows, where they could see Itachi walking down the street, further and further away from the Hokage Tower. Let's just hope you're right, Sensei, the Toad Sage sighed. How is he, Hinata? The Hyuga princess shook her head sadly. The other members of the Konoha 15 had been trying to get in to meet Naruto for 2 days straight. But no matter when and how hard they tried, their effort was in vain. Naruto just simply refused to meet anyone. The only people who were allowed to see him were Tsunade and the nurses, and even they could only shake their heads after coming out of the room. Well, at least we still know that his left arm is back to normal, Tenten said in an attempt to cheer the others up. That won't help much if he just locks himself up in that room like that, Ino pointed out. If this continues, there might be a chance he could go out and kill himself in despair. The other Konoha shinobi looked at her, horrified. What? The Yamanaka raised an eyebrow. That is a very common consequence in the case of a depression and mental breakdown victim. My family specializes in things like this, you know. Naruto's not going crazy, Sakura yelled at her friend. Shikamaru shook his head. This is such a drag, but if something isn't done soon, there might be a chance Naruto will go crazy for real. Karen nodded with a sad frown. Yeah. And tomorrow? Everyone looked toward the direction of Naruto's room in worry. No one noticed Sasuke's hands curling up into fists. Naruto was staring out of the window. His empty eyes swept across the hospital yard. In the morning, Hinata, Sakura, Karen and Fu had fought there, to save him from some kidnappers. His stomach twisted up when he thought about the fight. If he hadn't been so useless, then Sakura, Fu, and Hinata wouldn't have been injured so badly. Tears started flowing down his cheeks. He curled his now working left hand up and punched the mattress in anger and despair. All the power, all the training he had. What good did they even do? Then he nearly jumped when the door into his room was kicked open suddenly. He snapped his head back, but before he could even see anything, a hand had grabbed the neck of his hospital gown and pulled him toward the window. What the hell? Sasuke, release me. Now. Yes, the one who had just kidnapped Naruto out of his hospital room was no one else but Sasuke Uchiha. He was pulling the blonde by the neck of his hospital gown across the village. Hearing Naruto's complaint and struggle behind him, the Uchiha just threw back a glare and jumped even faster roof over roof. Finally, the two shinobi landed at Training Ground 7. Only there did Sasuke release Naruto and shove him to the ground. What the fight me? What the Uchiha had just said completely took Naruto aback. What? I want to fight you. Right here, right now, Sasuke repeated, more harshly than before. Naruto growled. Why should I? I don't have any reason to fight you. Ah, maybe you don't, but I do. Naruto had to scramble back on his feet when Sasuke suddenly leapt toward him and delivered a brutal kick at his face. What the hell is wrong with you? Naruto shouted. I don't want to fight you. Oh, you will fight me now, Naruto, Sasuke shouted back. Or are you so much of a coward you don't have the courage to lift a finger against me? Those words made Naruto's blood boiled. Say what? That's right, Sasuke continued, his eyes flared up into the shape of the Sharingan. Even with all those power in your possession, you, at the end, are just a coward. Stop calling me a coward, Naruto roared and kicked the ground, leaping at Sasuke. He threw a punch toward the Uchiha with his newly reattached left fist, but thanks to the Sharingan, the sluggish move was just like a joke to him. He leaned aside, avoiding the punch easily, and delivered a brutal backhand with his left knuckles to Naruto's face. The blonde Jinchuriki stumbled back painfully, his left cheek was swelling up. Oh yeah? But it seems your words and your action doesn't go together. Mocked Sasuke. Naruto screamed out in rage, and launched himself toward the Uchiha again. I'll show you, bastard. Sakura was horrified. She had seen her two teammates dragging each other toward Training Ground 7. She didn't know why, but when she decided to call them, there was something which seemed to hold her back. Therefore, she just followed them all the way to the training ground. But when the two boys started fighting each other, she knew she couldn't hold back anymore. She walked out from behind the tree she was hiding at, opened her mouth. Before a hand grabbed her shoulder. She whirled back, and realized that the one who was holding her back was Kakashi. Don't, the Jonin shook his head. This is what those two must resolve by themselves. Besides, didn't you have something more important to do? Sakura opened her mouth to protest, but Kakashi gave her a nice smile. Don't worry, just leave them to me. I promise I will intercept if something goes out of control, okay? The sound of steel clashing against steel echoed through the air. This is really everything you have? Sasuke said while easily deflecting the blade of Naruto's projected weapon with his katana. You're just this pathetic without relying on the power of your tailed beast friend? Shut up, Naruto roared. Then, holding the crude sword he had projected in a reverse grip, he aimed a slash at Sasuke, who jumped back to avoid the blade from cutting him in half at the waist. Not wasting a second, Naruto flicked his hand, and the reverse grip switched back to the normal grip before he threw the sword at the Uchiha, who slashed it away with his own katana. That moment was enough for Naruto to retreat, distancing himself from Sasuke. The two boys glared at each other for a few seconds. Then, suddenly, Sasuke sheathed his katana. I'm disappointed, he said. You're not worth considering a rival of mine anymore. Those words stabbed Naruto harder than any sword in the world could do. What are you saying? The Naruto I used to know isn't like you, Sasuke continued coldly. The Naruto I used to know never loses himself over any reason. And now, look at you, drowning yourself in depression, locking yourself in a room, not even bother trying to walk outside to meet anyone. Is that what you are these days, showing a depressed, sad face to make people pity you? I don't want people to pity me. Naruto roared, his fingernails clutched the skin of his hand so hard they drew blood. It's just. I have sworn that I won't let anyone get hurt because of me anymore. And yet. The girls. They still. The best thing for them is to stay away from me, as far as possible. That way they will not be in danger anymore. For a moment, there was no response from Sasuke. Then. I can't believe you're such a bastard. Naruto blinked. Huh? Their being hurt isn't even your fault at all, Sasuke pointed his finger at Naruto. The decision to jump in to protect you was of those girls themselves, not you. They already knew the worst possibility when they decided to battle those kidnappers, that was what those girls themselves told me. And yet, they still jump in, despite all the dangers, just because their feelings for you exceed even their deepest, biggest fear, exceed even death itself. They love you, no, everyone loves you, and cares for you with all their hearts. And at the same time, you decided to lock yourself in that room, thinking that you are some kind of god, and only you can decide what is best for other people? You don't have the right. Those words from Sasuke just like a slap to Naruto's face. You don't understand anything. Sasuke didn't let him finish his sentence. With a very quick body flicker, he appeared in front of Naruto and delivered a brutal punch straight at Naruto's nose. Not expecting the sudden move, Naruto couldn't dodge quickly enough, and the punch hit him full in the face. Blood flew everywhere. Yes, I don't understand. The Uchiha barked at his face. I only know that since the time I joined Team 7, what I hate the most are ones who dishonor people who helped them, who spit on the effort others spent for them. If that's what you are, then you might as well die, because this village, this world doesn't need someone as cowardly, as ungrateful as you. Once again, Naruto felt like he was slapped in the face again. But for some reason, this time he didn't feel angry or afraid anymore. Because he had finally understood what Sasuke was telling him. To tell the truth, he had never thought about that before. Even after he was blasted into the past, everything he'd thought about was to protect his precious people from the fate they had suffered during his time. He had thought that with the power of the tailed beasts in him, it was his duty to do what he thought was the best for everyone. Jiraiya had once told him, if he just tried to force everything to follow his way, he would be no better than Madara himself. And yet he still didn't realize it. He didn't realize that this world didn't just revolve around him and Madara. There were still other people. Other people who were always ready to stand beside him, to help him whenever they could. That's what made him different from Madara. Sasuke. Thank you. The Uchiha boy, who was turning to walk away, stopped on his track. What? Naruto pushed himself up. On his bloody face was the biggest grin he'd ever had. I finally realized how stupid I was. I know I cannot do anything without my friends. But now I know. That is actually my strongest point. Sasuke didn't give him an answer. Instead, the Uchiha just smiled, and with a few jumps, he distanced himself from Naruto. Then show me. From afar, he yelled at Naruto. His right hand moved forward in front of him, and within his palm, lightning chakra started gathering. Show me that it's actually what you mean from your heart, that everything you've just said wasn't just empty words. Naruto smiled. He reached out his intact hand, and a Rasengan started forming in his palm. Bring it on, Sasuke. When the two jutsu clashed against each other once again, Naruto felt, for the first time since his return to the past, that he had nothing to worry about anymore. Yeah, why should he, when he already had all of his friends behind him, to help him whenever he needed? You're such a big bastard, you know that? Not as big as you. The two boys were now sprawling on the ground, completely exhausted. You really didn't have to tell me off like that, you know, Naruto scowled, his eyes still stared up into the sky. Sasuke snorted. If I didn't do that, how could I snap you out of depression? The two boys didn't say anything for a while. Then, they suddenly burst into laughter, at the same time. A shared hearty, relaxed laughter. So, let's go home, huh? After a while, when they had managed to stop laughing, Naruto said. Sasuke grinned, then grabbed Naruto's hand. Yeah. Let's go home. This is not the only surprise for you today, I tell you. Naruto pushed open the gate leading into the yard of his house. For some reason, he felt that there was something wrong with the house today. It was already night, Karen was supposed to be home now, so why was the house still so dark? Then suddenly, he saw it, at the corner of his eye. There was definitely something moving in the window opening out of the kitchen. Thief. His thought immediately jumped into conclusion. Forgetting all restraint, he kicked the door open, rushing into the kitchen. Surprise! And saw it. On top of the dinner table, there was a very big cake with 13 lighted candles sitting on the top. Around the kitchen, ribbons of all colors covered the wall, together with balloons and flowers. And around the dinner table stood all the Konoha 15, together with Kakashi, Jiraiya, Tsunade, the Ichiraku family, Iruka, and the Hokage himself. What? What the? You idiot. Sakura came toward him from the table and bopped his head. You even forgot your own birthday already? His birthday? Oh. Today was October 10th, the day Tobi summoned Kurama to attack the village and nearly destroyed it. In this day each year, Naruto would rather lock himself in his apartment than go out, and he usually tried his best to forget about it, so it's natural that he didn't remember his own birthday. It was Hinata who told us about this, Ino said, wagging her finger. She was the only one who noticed that you haven't had a decent birthday party in your life. So, this should be your first birthday party. Cheer up. Yeah, Naruto. The other ones also cheered. Come here and blow the candles. Naruto walked toward the table as if he was hypnotized. This was just like a dream to him. All around him was his friends, holding a party for him to celebrate his own birthday. What he had wished for all his life. Then he remembered something. He snapped his head back at Sasuke, who was standing at the door. You knew all about this, don't you? The Uchiha only answered him with a smirk and HN. Suddenly Naruto felt tears in his eyes. But this time, they were not tears of sadness or despair. They were tears of absolute, uncontrollable happiness. Thank you everyone. He sniffled. This means a lot to me. Really? Oh, come on, man. Kiba's voice boomed next to his ears, and he felt a hand slapping his back so hard he nearly dropped his face on the table. This is a happy day, why are you crying? Hinata is looking, where is your manliness? Kiba-kun. Hinata chided him, blushing a fierce shade of red. But she didn't seem to be angry at all, instead, she was smiling brightly. 1, 2, 3. On the count of 3, all of the candles were blown out in a breath, and loud applauses filled the air. So. Present time, Ino declared happily, pulling out an envelope from her pocket. This is 3 years worth of free all-you-can-eat coupons from Akamiki Barbecue, valid forever. We all know that you have to eat something other than ramen eventually, so yeah, Choza-san has allowed us to get this for you. This is the present of Team 10 dedicated solely for you, Naruto. Hey! That's not fair. Next to her, Ayame shouted indignantly. Then she shoved another envelope into Naruto's hand. Here is 3 years worth of free ramen coupons from Ichiraku Ramen, and we all know which one Naruto-kun likes better, ni? She ended with an affectionate rub at Naruto's cheek, which reddened upon her contact. Everyone burst into laughter upon the scene, when Ino and Ayame shot death glares at each other. Now, don't fight each other here, you two, Iruka chuckled. Then he put the box he was holding on the table. See, I didn't know what I should give you at all, but then I remember this. Open it, Naruto. Naruto opened the box, and gasped. This is... Inside the box was a pair of short swords. They looked old, yet bathing in the light of the room, the blades still glittered, as if someone had been polishing them every day. They were a little bit bigger and heavier than the kunai Naruto was used to, and the blades were thick and a little bit crude, but for some reason, Naruto still felt they're beautiful beyond his imagination. Holding them, even without both of his hands, Naruto could feel how easy they were to be handled together, as if they were made to be used as a pair. Made for each other. He had seen them hanging on Iruka's living room wall before, but had never had a chance to ask his teacher about them. They are actually my parents' engagement present, Iruka explained. My father and my mother, each of them wielded one as their signature weapons in the past. They always said the sword's true power would be unleashed when they're used together. And I think in your hand they will be more useful than just sitting on my wall. Naruto felt something choke in his throat. This was such a valuable gift, he had never expected to be able to receive such a precious thing. Thank you, Iruka-sensei. I promise I will treasure them, he murmured. But you will need both of your hands in order to use them, Naruto. Suddenly, Tenten's voice chimed in. It brings us to the present of Team Guy. Open it up. She put a rather large box in front of Naruto. Whoa. What's this? Naruto marveled while staring at the content of the box. At first Lee insisted in giving you dumbbells as present, the only girl of Team Guy said, shooting an annoyed glance at her teammate. But then I heard from the other girls that you lost your right arm, and I immediately thought about this. It is a replacement arm which can be controlled by chakra signals sent from your own body. Of course, it will not be able to replace your real arm completely, as it is just an artificial construct without a chakra network inside, and will definitely take some practice to get used to it. But I think it will be able to help you at least in taijutsu and daily work. At least until you get a real arm to replace your lost arm. She hesitated a bit, then continued, slightly embarrassed, of course, this thing has been lying in the storage room of my shop for quite a long time already, as no one bothered to even look at it. But... Are you kidding me? Naruto answered her with a grin. This is the best thing ever. Now, how to put it on? Tenten broke out a strained smile. Maybe you will have to ask Tsunade-sama to help you with it, because this arm is kinda attached straight to your body, so. Naruto paled. Oh my god, don't tell me. Another surgery? I hate needles. Everyone burst into laughter again. Okay, now it's time for our present, Hiruzen said, putting another box in front of Naruto. This is a joint present from Team Hiruzen, meaning from me, Jiraiya and Tsunade. Pervy Sage too? Naruto looked at the Toad Sage suspiciously. Don't tell me this is the whole collection of Icha drafts just like he told me before. You did what? Tsunade roared, cocking her fist back, ready to punch. Jiraiya hastily retreated, raising his hands defensively. Hey, brat, are you trying to kill me? No, this is not the drafts, how can I give something so precious to someone like you? No, this is also something very valuable. But definitely not as valuable as my draft. Leaving Tsunade pummeling the pervert to the ground, Naruto opened the box. And he blinked when he saw the content inside. What's this? This is a seal drawing brush made by the most famous toolmaker in the world, the Hokage answered. It is made from the feather of a phoenix, a very rare creature which people thought to have been disappeared for quite a long time. As a phoenix never drops a feather for anyone except if it deems the person worthy, this brush is never going to break or be damaged, and has a lot of hidden magical properties even I cannot understand thoroughly. As you are going to learn about sealing jutsu, I think this will be a very suitable present for you. Inside Naruto, Jinki was also marveling about the brush. Wow. I've never thought I could see another phoenix feather brush in this world. The last one I've seen was that of father, and it was lost after his death. I didn't think there was another person in the world that was accepted enough by a phoenix to be able to get a feather from it. Phoenixes are honorable creatures, they never shed a feather except when they begin to die for their rebirth, and when they die, everything coming from them and around them will burst into flame, so no one could ever get anything from them. Ignoring the rambling of the seal nerd inside his head, Naruto panicked. I cannot take this, Gigi. This incredible brush should be used by a worthy seal master, like Pervy Sage, not someone like me. It is I who thought of getting this thing for you, brat. Jiraiya, recovered after Tsunade's beatdown, said. And although I definitely can have more use for this treasure, I don't quite need it that much at the moment, considering I'm already a seal master. You have a lot to learn in the future, and I believe someday you'll be able to surpass even myself, so giving it for you is just a sensible idea, eh? Then he giggled creepily. Although I wonder what will happen if I use this brush to write Icha Icha. Hey, maybe I'll have to borrow it from you sometimes. The next thing he knew was that he was sprawling on the ground again, courtesy of another fist coming from Tsunade. Meanwhile, Karen and Fu were scowling. How can we even top something like that? The Uzumaki girl complained. She threw a package on Naruto's laps. Here you go. The present of Team 11. Naruto opened the package, and stared at the thing inside. It was a book titled Sealing Jutsu for Dummies. You might have the best brush for drawing seals, but your knowledge about sealing is still close to zero, Karen said, pointing at Naruto. And I cannot let a person bearing the Uzumaki name be a dumbass who doesn't know anything about sealing jutsu except for some meager sealing scrolls. So yeah, take this book to study and make the Uzumaki clan proud of you, she declared. Karen is always like this. Ju-Ugo facepalmed, and Fu nodded in agreement. Naruto smiled. You really are the best sister in the world. Karen-chan. Karen's head immediately turned the shade of a tomato. Idiot. It's not because I love you or anything. What's with that tsundere reaction and everything? Kiba said, and immediately regretted his words as Karen snarled and leapt at him to choke his throat. Please don't mind Kiba-kun, Naruto-kun. Hinata smiled apologetically, and placed the box containing teammates' present on the table. Naruto opened the box, and saw it lined up with different types of ointment and medicine. This is actually Hinata's idea, Naruto, Shino said, his mouth still hidden under the neck of his long coat. She knows that you don't usually get sick, therefore you don't bother having a medicine box in your house. That's why she asked the team and Kurenai-sensei to help her prepare this. There are medicine for all kinds of normal injury and sickness here, we hope it will help you. Yeah. Seriously, Hinata actually cares for Naruto even more than for her own teammates. If anything, I'd say Hinata is just like Naruto's wife now, Kiba grunted, finally managing to escape Karen's grasp. Both Hinata and Naruto turned the same brilliant shade of red. Kiba-kun. Finally, it's Team 7's turn. Kakashi walked up, and placed a rather flat box in front of Naruto. Here you go. I think you will like this. What is this, sensei? Naruto eyed the box warily. Kakashi gave him a nice smile. The Hokage allowed me to have a week of break to prepare this. Sakura and Sasuke also helped, too. It's not much, but this is every photo and picture about your parents in Konoha we could find. Naruto opened the album in the box, and gasped. The faces of his parents were looking back at him from each photo. There was his dad, wearing his Hokage long coat with an awkward smile next to Kakashi who looked rather annoyed, as if he just wanted to abandon the shot and run away. And there was his mom, holding her hands over her pregnant belly happily. Sitting next to her was a girl with face decoration similar to Kiba. There were many other pictures, each of them featured his mother, or his father, or both of them, always with a smile on their faces. Naruto suddenly felt his cheeks wet again. His tears dropped on the photos one by one, but he ignored them. What's wrong with crying about something like this, after a whole life alone without his parents? He couldn't say a word, but everyone in the room all understood. Thank you everyone. Good night. The party didn't end until after midnight. Naruto sighed happily after the last of his friends disappeared at the corner of the empty street. It wouldn't be far-fetched to say this was the happiest day in his life, before or after be damned. He would remember this day forever. He turned his back to go back into the house, and... Hinata-chan? What are you still doing here? I thought you went home already? The timid girl was standing behind him, her index fingers poking together. In her hands was another box he hadn't seen her holding before in the party. Hinata-chan, this is... Hinata blushed brightly. Actually, this. She shoved the box into Naruto's hand rather awkwardly. Happy birthday, Naruto-kun. Naruto received the present with a blank. But didn't you give me one before, in the party? Hinata shook her head. That was a present from Team 8, Naruto-kun. This one. Her blush darkened. Is my own. What I made for you only. Naruto stared at the girl for about 5 seconds. And then, with a very big grin, he held the box by his teeth, as he only had one hand, then carefully opened the wrapping paper with his left hand. Inside the box was a scarf. A mere glance could show that the one who made it was someone who hadn't even had any idea how to knit until about a week ago. The color of the scarf reminded Naruto of Kurama's fur, a color which someone like Ino would gag and throw away immediately upon touching. It was obvious Hinata didn't lie when she said she made it by herself for Naruto only. I'm sorry, Naruto-kun. I know it is not very beautiful, but it's the first time I knit for someone. So, Hinata said dejectedly, looking down on the ground while poking her fingers together again. But then she was surprised when Naruto immediately put the scarf on his neck. Wow, this scarf is awesome. How do you know I like this color, Hinata-chan? The blush immediately returned to Hinata's face. So, do you like it? Of course I like it. Naruto answered heatedly. This is the first time someone gave me something like this. It is even better than the brush Gigi and Pervy Sage gave me, even better than Iruka-sensei's swords. It is the best present. I love it, Hinata-chan. A warm feeling swept through Hinata's heart. She closed her eyes, and a very bright smile bloomed on her face. Thank you, Naruto-kun. Then she took a deep breath. And Naruto-kun. There is something else. What? Naruto blinked, confused. Then he was completely taken aback when Hinata placed a gentle kiss on his left cheek. The kiss was a bit awkward, but Naruto could feel, even without activating his chakra cloak, every feeling Hinata had in her heart poured into it. The two children separated, and Naruto unconsciously raised his left hand to touch the place where the girl had just kissed him. He stared into Hinata's wide eyes, not being able to say anything for a while. Then multiple loud clapping noises snapped the two back to reality. You go girl. The cheering of Ino broke the silence of the night. I didn't even think that girl could ever find the nerve to do that, Tsunade noted, nodding at Jiraiya, who was writing furiously on his notebook. You guys. Naruto gaped at everyone from the party, who were hiding in the bush at the corner of the street. Obviously they had seen everything, including the endearingly cute kiss Hinata had just given him. I wonder what Hiyashi-sama would say when I show him this, Neji said, holding up a camera no one knew where he got from. Next to him, Hinata's face gradually turned a dangerously red color. Then, she fell over. My god. Hinata-chan. When Naruto, together with the rest of the Konoha 15, arrived at the square directly below the Hokage tower, he wasn't surprised to see the whole population of Konohagakure had gathered there before him. After all, there had been a notice straight from the Hokage himself the other day that there would be an important announcement for all of Konoha here today. What do you think will be announced today? He whispered to Sasuke, who was standing next to him. The Uchiha shrugged. Not only Naruto, everyone around them was also whispering to each other about the same thing. Then every sound died down immediately when the Hokage stepped out to the roof balcony. He cleared his throat, and then, his voice, amplified hundreds of times thanks to some kind of jutsu, echoed through the air of the village. Greetings, citizens of Konohagakure. I suppose you're wondering why I gathered you all here today. There's a murmur of agreement among the crowd. As a Konoha citizen, I know every one of you has heard about the Uchiha massacre incident, the Hokage continued, and his voice suddenly took a downward tone. But today, I want to inform every citizen of Konoha of the truth about the massacre, the whole truth, which will change your whole point of view about what you already knew about it. Sasuke and Naruto's eyes widened. If the Hokage decided to do what they thought he was doing. During that night, the Uchiha clan was starting a coup d'etat. They were trying to make an attack from within Konoha, to take over the village by force. The silence suddenly exploded. A wave of panicked whispers spread through the crowd, and people stared at the Hokage in disbelief, in horror. Hiruzen just stared back at the crowd calmly until they had murmured themselves into silence again. Then, he continued. The Shinobi Council didn't want me to reveal this truth. They're afraid that the weight of the truth would cause panic within the ranks of Konohagakure, and might even lead to a riot. Personally, I think they had a point. But now, I have a feeling that keeping the truth in the dark will cause more harm than good, and as such, it is not wise to hide it from the population of Konoha anymore. We have all the evidence to show that in that night, it wasn't Itachi Uchiha who massacred the whole Uchiha clan at all. Upon investigation, the Shinobi Council deduced that there was only one person who could have done that hideous work. He was someone who was so familiar and skilled with the Sharingan that he could destroy a whole clan wielding the same Dujutsu that easily, someone whose mastery of weapons, especially Kama, exceeded that of even the most powerful weapon masters we have. The Shinobi. Infamous on the battlefield with the name Madara Uchiha, the one who orchestrated the attack of the Kyuubi on Konoha, and now the man behind the terrorist organization named the Akatsuki. Stunned and frightened, every face in the square was turned toward the Hokage now. Everyone was too shocked to know that the one who was considered the boogeyman of Konohagakure, the one whose power rivaled that of the first Hokage himself, was still alive and was behind the whole massacre of the Uchiha clan, and the terrifying attack of the Kyuubi 12 years ago to boot. There were many whispers and shouts of disbelief, and Naruto suddenly had a hot, sick feeling in his stomach. He threw a quick glance at Sasuke, and was surprised to see the young Uchiha not showing any hint of anger or sadness. The Hokage raised his hand. The whispers and shouts died down immediately. There is, of course, someone else who must be mentioned in connection with the Uchiha massacre, he went on. Of course, I'm talking about Itachi Uchiha, the one who was wrongly accused of being the culprit. Everyone turned their eyes toward Itachi, who was standing behind the Hokage, trying his best to avoid the stares aiming at him. At that time, Itachi was assigned the mission of executing the masterminds of the coup. He accepted it willingly, and thus, had to, literally, sacrifice his own family, who was the ones leading it in the first place, for the sake of this whole village. And after the incident, he had worked undercover in the Akatsuki and had given us clues and information about the organization, and that of Madara Uchiha himself, which were the things that led us to the conclusion about the real culprit of the incident. And recently, he rescued Naruto Uzumaki from the hand of the Akatsuki after he was captured during his mission. He showed, in every aspect, the utmost loyalty that few shinobi have ever shown for the village of Konohagakure, and for this, I honor him. The square returned to solemn silence again. Everything which had just been dumped on their heads was just too much for the citizens of Konoha to even have a reaction. What I want to say is, the Kyuubi incident, the massacre of the Uchiha clan, the invasion of Otogakure, and now, the kidnapping of Naruto Uzumaki, are only the start of a potentially dark and difficult time for Konohagakure and the whole shinobi world. Some of you standing in this square today have already suffered from the wars before. Many families have been torn asunder. I'm sure you understand what would happen if another war broke out. And when that time happens, and I mean when, not if, I sincerely hope you will fight for what is right, not for your dark and selfish desires. Good job, Naruto, you're starting to get it. Awesome. The artificial arm, which had been grafted into place successfully, shot up and punched Naruto in the face. Ow. I told you you have to maintain the control of your chakra, Sakura scolded him. If you lose control, your movement will go haywire, just like that. You have to let it flow into the arm in small trickles. After the surgery, Sakura was the one who volunteered to train Naruto in using his new arm properly. After all, she was the one with the best chakra control of the Konoha 15, and Naruto's teammate, therefore, it was understandable. But now even she was starting to lose her calm with failure after failure from Naruto. He just had too much chakra, and he could rarely keep his mind calm enough to keep the arm's movement in check. Well, just consider this a training of your mind, brat, Tsunade, who had just walked into the room, said. I have only met you for a few months, but I can already see you have some kind of problem. ADHD, perhaps? Naruto groaned. I don't know what that ADHD is supposed to mean, but I have a feeling you're mocking me, Ba-chan. Putting that aside for a while, Tsunade waved him off. There is something I want to tell you, Sakura. Sakura's heart skipped a beat. Was the legendary Kunoichi saying what she thought she was saying? Tsunade sighed. Oh well, this might come back to bite me in the ass, but well, I decided to make you my apprentice. Awesome. Naruto beamed, slapping Sakura at the back with his left hand, while his right arm shot to the sky once again. I told you that she would accept you, Sakura. Now you are the apprentice of a legendary Sannin. Meanwhile, Sakura's mind seemed to be in a trance. She had dreamt of this day for months, and now it was going to become the truth. But she still hesitated. But I couldn't help you with Naruto's surgery as you told me, Tsunade-sama. Tsunade waved her off. Who cares about that stupid surgery? The important thing is, you already showed me that you have the heart and the will to help, to protect people important to you. That's all I need to know. Then, she smiled sadly. To be honest, you remind me of myself when I was young. At that time. Oh well, forget it. What matters is, do you agree to be my apprentice or not? Sakura nodded hastily. Oh. Of course I do, Tsunade-sama. It's my honor to be your apprentice. Tsunade smirked. Then you'd better prepare yourself, because my training is not going to be gentle at all, do you understand? Yes, master. Naruto Uzumaki, the Hokage and the Shinobi Council want to meet you. Please follow us. Naruto blinked. Gigi wanting to meet him was one thing, but why did the council want to meet him? And what was so important that they had to ask the Anbu to come to escort him? He asked tentatively. Why do they want to meet me so much that they have to ask you guys to come to fetch me? That's not within our freedom to talk about. Please come with us immediately, or there will be consequences. Gee, talk about stuck-up assholes, Chome snarked in Naruto's head. Naruto gulped and nodded. Just what the hell was going on here? When Naruto arrived at the conference chamber, he was surprised to see that he wasn't the only one who was summoned. In the room, there were the other members of Team 7 and Team 11, too. Seeing Naruto walking into the room, Hiruzen smiled. "Ah, Naruto, finally you're here. Good, good, come in and sit down so that we can start." "What's going on, Gigi?" Naruto asked right after sitting himself down. "What happened that made you call two teams here? Is there something wrong?" "Naruto Uzumaki, you'll address the Hokage as Hokage-sama in front of the council," Homura Mitokado, sitting next to the aforementioned man, scolded the Jinchuriki. Hiruzen just smiled and waved him off. "Just calm down, Homura, our purpose today isn't to scold him for something he has done since he was a little baby, right?" The council member reluctantly relented. "Actually Naruto, today we call you two teams here because we have something important, related to your future. This is actually a proposal, from the Shinobi Council themselves. Koharu, if you might?" The only female member of the disbanded Team Tobirama stood up from her seat. "Indeed. The matter we're discussing today is related to you, Naruto Uzumaki, and you, Fu," she pointed at Fu, who let out a surprised squeak. "Me? But I have just joined Konoha for less than 2 months." The old woman nodded. "Indeed. And that's one of the problems. You see, we know that as Jinchuriki, you two possess tremendous power. But it seems that is still not enough. Recently Naruto Uzumaki was kidnapped when he was healing in the hospital. Even though he was not in his full power, that was still something unacceptable for a Jinchuriki. With that level of skill and power, there is no way you two can defend yourself against the Akatsuki if they decide to attack the village. Listen here you old hag." Karen started standing up from her seat angrily, but Anko's hand suddenly grabbed her shoulder, pushing her down. She turned back to her sensei, but the snake mistress's eyes somehow made words choke in her throat. The old woman continued. "That is why the Shinobi Council, approved by the Hokage, has a proposal for you two. The training of you two with Kakashi Hatake and Anko Mitarashi still doesn't seem to be enough. That is why, starting from next week, you two, together with Jiraiya of the Sannin, will depart on a training journey for the next 3 years. During this time period, the council will expect you to train with your best effort, and reach the level of at least a Jonin when you return to the village. This will be an A-rank mission assigned and paid by Konohagakure and the Shinobi Council themselves. The Hokage already gave his approval for this, but do you two accept the mission?" The declaration of the council representative made Naruto and Fu unable to say anything for a while. Then, the female Jinchuriki asked. "If we accept, what will happen to Team 7 and Team 11? "You don't have to worry about that, Fu." This time, it was the Hokage himself who answered her. Now that Sasuke has advanced to Chunin, he is more than capable of taking missions and training alone. During the time you and Naruto are absent, Sakura will work together with the two remaining members of Team 11 as Team Kakashi, under the lead of both Kakashi and Anko, while also training with Tsunade as her apprentice, until you return, or the team advances to Chunin by themselves. Naruto frowned. This was actually happening just like during his time, when he departed for his training with Jiraiya. The only different thing was that this time, there was another person coming together with them. "You don't have to give us your answer immediately," Hiruzen continued. "I will give you 2-3 days to think about this. This is a very important decision, and I understand you need to be careful with the choice you make. Consult your teammates and sensei if you want to. I believe that they should also have a voice about this." Naruto and Fu looked at the other members of Team 7 and Team 11. They also seemed to be surprised about the sudden proposal from the council, but seeing the two Jinchurikis look, they all smiled and nodded in approval. Naruto and Fu looked at each other, and nodded. "We don't need 3 days, Gigi," Naruto said. "Our decision is." The Konoha 15, together with the Hokage, Tsunade, and Jiraiya, were standing in front of the gate leading out of Konoha. Today was the day Naruto and Fu had to depart with Jiraiya for the 3-year training trip. Even though she had prepared herself mentally for this trip, when the day came, Fu still couldn't hold her feeling back. The days in Konoha were actually the first days of her life. She had people who called her friend. And now she had to leave them after only 2 mere months. Fu rarely cried. But when she had to cry, she cried like a baby. There, Karen hugged her, patting her on the back to calm her down. "It's not like we won't meet each other again. Right? It's only 3 years. But. Fu bawled, unable to stop herself. Meanwhile, Hiruzen and Tsunade were talking with Jiraiya. "You know what you must do during this trip, Jiraiya?" The Toad Sage nodded, there was no trace of his usual jolly expression on his face. "I know, Sensei. I promise when we return, you will not see the old Fu and Naruto anymore. Then he had to take a step back when he saw Tsunade's fist in front of his face. If they bring a baby or two back home after the trip, you'd better be prepared, because I will castrate you with my rustiest kitchen knife, then heal it and castrate you again. Understand? Jiraiya gulped. Meanwhile, the Konoha 15 were talking with each other. I'll miss you very much, Naruto-kun, Hinata said, hugging Naruto. Since after the incident the other night, it seemed the shy girl's courage was improved a lot. Naruto didn't know why, but he had a disturbing feeling that the blackmail photo Neji had taken had something to do with it. Somehow. Finally, after a while, Hinata let him go. Her face was still a little bit pink. So. I guess this is goodbye. For now, Naruto said, awkwardly scratching his head. It would seem so, Shikamaru grinned. Good luck on your training, Naruto. Silence fell between the rookie shinobi again. Then, Naruto took a deep breath and said, there is something I think you guys should know about. My team and Team 11 already knew about it, but you guys haven't. So. The truth is, the two of us, me and Fu, are. You two are containers of tailed beasts? The sudden question from Shikamaru startled Naruto. You knew? The Nara genius shrugged. I didn't know about Fu, but when you said the two of you, I kind of figured it out. And about you. It's quite easy to link everything up, especially with your birthday, and the fact that parents in the village usually don't want their children to get close to you. Naruto's face fell. But. If you already knew about that. Why? Didn't we stay away from you? This time, it was Kiba who snorted. Oh please, Hinata told us about your problem a long time ago already. The aforementioned girl reddened. But why should we stay away from you anyway? You are a good friend, an excellent crime partner. Without you, many pranks we did during our academy year wouldn't have been succeeded. Naruto was stunned. But. Guy-sensei once told me that it is our choices that show what we truly are, not our abilities, our bloodline or anything like that. Neji walked up. I didn't believe it at first, but after fighting Hinata-sama and your teammate in the Chunin exam, I had to change my view. You might be the one holding the Kyuubi inside you, but whether you become like the Kyuubi or not is that of yours to choose. And whether you should be our friend or not is always our right to decide. If after everything we did for you and you still don't want to accept our friendship, it would be a very big insult to us. But. Naruto bit his lips. The enemy I'm going to face is Madara Uchiha of all people. He is the most powerful shinobi in history, and who knows what he can do if he comes at me at his full power. Then we just need to train ourselves to the point we surpass even him, Lee said simply, giving Naruto his trademark thumb up. There is no such rule that a normal shinobi cannot surpass a powerful genius. Didn't you and your team already prove that? No matter how powerful he is nothing against our burning flame of youth. You don't have to worry about us, Naruto. Sasuke, who had been silent the whole time, now raised his voice. Don't even think that during your 3 years of training we're just going to sit here and do nothing. I swear to you, when you return from your training, I will be stronger than you. Believe it, he added Naruto's catchphrase at the end as an emphasis. The doubt and hesitation in Naruto's mind faded. He smiled, raising his left hand in a fist. Are you sure you can keep that promise? Of course I can, Dobi. Sasuke also smirked, bumping his own fist against Naruto's. Then Naruto remembered something. Hey, speaking about that, Gigi said that you would be acting solo after we leave, right? So who are you going to be training under? Sakura was accepted as Bachan's apprentice, but... Sasuke just gave him a mysterious smirk. Ah, who knows? After all, it's not like the legendary Sannin are the most powerful shinobi in Konoha, right? Naruto blinked. What's that supposed to mean? Alright you two, it's time to go, Jiraiya declared, grabbing Fu and Naruto's shoulders. Naruto turned back and smiled at his friends, who were still looking at him with the same very bright and encouraging smile. Well, then. See you all in 3 years, everyone. He waved at the rest of the Konoha 15. I promise the next time I'm here, I won't let anyone else disappointed. Me too. Fu also waved cheerfully. I will make a lot more friends during our travel. Everyone kept waving at the 3 departing people until they disappeared at the horizon. All of them knew that this farewell isn't something to be sad about, but a gate for all of them to open up a new future, for Konohagakure, and for the shinobi world. Now, said Hiruzen, his eyes twinkled at Sasuke, it's time to prepare ourselves for the upcoming Cage Summit, and then. Sasuke grinned. That's it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video,
Subscribe to the channel, and follow me on my other social media accounts. Anime God here, and I'm signing off.